Hello, chat. How are we all doing tonight? My goodness. It is time for the fucking finale, baby. Hello, Arch, Shreezus, Crenshaw, Skitty, Zane, Duality, Arch, Skitty, I think I already said Skitty, Sino. It is lovely to see you all. I can finally catch a stream. I've been so busy. Are you caught up with Alternate Universe? Because we're on finale time, baby. About that, I'm assuming you said you didn't have a ton of time recently, so I'm guessing you probably haven't. Hi, might be in and out today, but I'm still here. No worries, Willow. I have not. Well, then you don't want to accidentally stick around for spoilers. So, but I do get what you mean. I'm trying my best, I swear. I understand. I've I am on chapter 40, I think, of my YWDMP reread. I'm like halfway into the chapter. I can't scroll up. Oh, Shreezus, thank you for the Prime. MC is one of the games of all time. It is. It really is. Bum. Oh, let me do Dagakten Saibon, which is my favorite. I love this one. I've also been starting writing my own fic. I've seen some of your tweets about that. How the fuck does Unda do 15k plus 4 chapters? I know! Actually, it's funny. I was working on one of my own fics earlier today. And I was just like, I stared at my total word count for the whole fic, and it's about 30k right now. And I'm like, holy shit, how does Unda do this in, like, a week? I was like, just holy fuck. But I've been making progress on my little fic, and I'm very happy with it. I've, like, nailed out for sure the first few chapters. They need a little bit of editing, but it's gonna be good. So I'm excited. And I want to post eventually. It'll be out eventually, but it's just gonna take time for it to come out. Because I'm a slow writer, and I'm the type of person that wants to have the whole thing done before I post it online, which means it might never get posted. but it's in the works. I'm keeping the first chapter at about 5k words because I'm a slow writer. Yeah, my first chapter is Hi Ellipti. Bum. How long is my first chapter? Tools, word count. My first chapter is like 3k. 3k-ish. I could make it longer, but, you know, but everybody writes a little differently. All right, so we're gonna hop into the fucking finale. We're gonna hop into the summary first. So Arch, you might wanna dip. Yeah. Have a lovely night. We are going to get started, so I'm going to turn down this music, and by turn down I mean turn off. Alright, awesome. So, where we wrapped up last chapter, honestly, if if you weren't here for yesterday, you really should go watch the VOD and not be here. But I think everybody in chat are people who, for the most part, were either here yesterday or don't care about spoilers, who already have already read the fic. So we had a giant. We had the beginning of the court case. That is basically the negotiation, or Roxy claiming that Dirk / the devil did not hold up his end of the deal with Dave being the Antichrist, and therefore it is invalid. Hi, Lunar. And at the very end, we ended with the drop / reveal of Rose Lalonde's existence to the court. So we're about to get started with the chapter's continuation with the rest of it. So I'm going to take a sip of water as I do, and we'll hop in. All right. Oh, final chapter. Here we go. Chapter 45, Tailspin. Tisius, you call out as the demon starts to walk towards the other demons doing your legal work. Tisius hums curiously around her mug. What's the plan here? Are you actually going to argue that it's Rose, or that Rose and Dave combined, or you start? I'm not discussing my plans with anyone who can be called onto the stand, Tisius says firmly. But I've already been up there. Can they call me twice? You ask. I don't think it's usual, but I also don't think they can't, you know? Soluk says thoughtfully. You just like the idea that someone could be called up there twice because it's a two thing, you grumble. Soluk looks annoyed, and it's almost certainly because you correctly called him out. It delights you. As I said, it's not happening. Things are exactly as I need them to be. Roxy, I'm going to need you to testify soon, so be ready, Tisius warns, and Roxy nods. You try to talk to her again, but Tisius ignores you, and instead waves a hand in the air. Teal magic, flaring for a moment, reality parts like a curtain, and a small continent, pretending to be a man, shifts through the space. Looking at him, you can work out that he and Spade Slick are the same species, but they're nothing alike in scale. You could probably fit two of Spades side by side in this newcomer's coat, and the ends of it would still drag on the floor. You'd probably silently classify him as fat, not that you're a skinny person yourself, but the guy seems fat in the way that sumo wrestlers or the guys who compete in Highland games are fat. Like, yeah, there's fat on there, but very shortly underneath is enough muscle to destroy you with. You think the scientific term for his body type is built like a brick shithouse. I am Tisius Entic. I have a request of your boss. Tisius bows shortly. Heart's boxcar, but in this job, it's hegemonic brute. What do you want? The man growls, flashing shark teeth in a pitch-black mouth. Is he a psychopomp too, or... Hegemonic brute, I need to request the summons of a specific person. Solux, you said you have Dave's memories of their creation. Could you give me a psychic signature of them? I would ask Dave, but... Tisius begins. But I gave myself magical brain damage, and I still don't know how to do lots of this stuff. Yeah, it's cool, Dave interrupts. That's not exactly what I was going to say, but sure, Tisius nods. Solux closes all of his eyes for a moment, and then pulls a sheet of glimmering paper out of thin air in something that seems more sleight of hand than real magic. He hands it off to Hegemonic Brute, who peers at it for a moment, beady little eyes narrowed at the paper. Gonna need a lot of permissions to get someone who can time travel. You need the sword, too? He asks, and starts to pick at a gap between his teeth with a black tongue. It's relevant to the case, Tisius says simply. Thing is, you're the second to petition for that thing. Other side gets first crack at it, the brute says with a shrug. Fine by me. They can spend time cracking the magic on it, and I can just get the results. I get first shot at the witness, Tisius grins. The hegemonic brute just grunts and shoulders his way through the fabric of reality, and is gone just like that. Right. Stells, I need you to itemize all the evidence Roxy brought from her safe after Dave and Rose became Dave and Rose. Give them as much paperwork as you can, anything to burn their time or misdirect them. Lean hard into the evidence about Rose being born first. Same for that blanket. Tisius says, turning to Stelsa. They have a whole team, honey, and I'm just me, but I'll do my best. Stelsa nods, smacking her fist on her palm decisively. Rose, Tisius begins, but Hal interrupts her. This isn't going to work. The only way you can get Rose to be the one who fits the prophecy is if you argue that she and Dave are the same person, and everything that happened to Dave had to happen to her too, but they'll get you on the grammar of that. You can't argue that it's only Rose because she's not his son. You can't win this on a technicality. It wasn't me, it's not Jade, and it isn't Rose either, Hal insists. They have to prove that, Tisius shrugs. I do agree with you, Hal. Logically, this seems like a lost cause, but I've got a feeling that it's all going to be fine somehow. I don't know how, but that's the feeling I get. Rose says slowly and thoughtfully. Is that a vision? A prophecy? June asks eagerly. No, just a feeling. I can't explain it. Rose shrugs. Good, that's very interesting. Now, come on with me, Rose. We have to talk, Tezia says firmly and leads her away. Stelsa takes Roxy away too, so they can go over all her things together, and that leaves the rest of you just stood there. So, we're related, Jade says after a moment of silence. I guess. Does it count when it's both through people that we wish didn't exist? Dave says uneasily. It counts, but that means I have years of big sister teasing to get through, Jade grins. Your birthdays aren't that far apart, like, June tries, but Jade steadfastly ignores her. Don't you think Rose will be mad if you try taking over her brand like that? Dave laughs nervously as he backs up. Nope. Jade grins. Her expression is sharp and fey, and as Dave bolts, she chases, alive with the hunt. Solux, help! Dave yelps as he sprints around the car. I'm giving you moral support, Solux calls back. I'm still worried about the thing about my temples. Oh, what's that about? June asks. In the distance, Dave vaults a table with Jade hot on his heels. Could just be trying to overwhelm our side with evidence to look at, or trying to rattle you, Hal points out. Pretty solid legal strategy. It's not like they can get me for damaging that stuff. I had nothing to do with the moon shit, so it's not like it's evidence of previous bad behavior against gods. Not to mention that I did it for you. We were working together. It's gotta be a diversion. Solix agrees. There's a distant yelp and a crackling laugh. You glance away from the current conversation to see that Jade has caught Dave in a headlock and appears to be trying to noogie his brains out of his skull. I'm not really sure what Theseus' strategy is, though, and that makes me nervous, you admit. Same, but at least Bro's looking real bad, June agrees. Red Glare and the rest of the legal team have to represent him no matter what. They're contractually bound to. They don't look like they're enjoying it, though, and even though Red Glare is defending him legally, she's not doing an awful lot to protect his reputation. Not that I can see that she could do much, Hal says with a nod. I trust Rose's good feeling on this, and I know I don't know everything about this case, but I don't see how this is going to go in our favor, you confess. It feels horrible to admit, but there it is. The prophecy is pretty clear to me. Even if the whole jury thinks the other side is an asshole, that doesn't mean that we're right, Hal agrees. You're forgetting about Rose, Terezi says solemnly. Her voice makes you jump, because honestly, you'd forgotten about her. No, her and Dave being separate is weird, but it doesn't rule Dave out. Whoever was before Dave when Roxy was pregnant wasn't born. The prophecy isn't changed, Hal argues. I didn't say that. Terezi grins wide, showing her fangs off. Then what? Hey, get back here! June shouts, but Terezi has already wandered off with a self-satisfied smile on her face. Would this be a bad time to ask what happens if we lose this case? Kanaya asks quietly. You'd really been trying not to think about that. The jury and Athena make the ruling, but at the very least, Dave gets dragged back into ending the world, Hal tells her. But wouldn't that mean we wouldn't be alive for very long anyway? Kanaya presses. I don't know exactly how the end of the world looks. I don't know if it means that it's just all the mortals are gone, and Earth belongs to hell, and we fracture away from realities with the other gods, or if it's more everything ceases to be, Hal admits. But you were in Cal. Doesn't that mean Cal didn't know either? Does Bro not know? You ask. He probably thinks that even if it's a bad outcome for everyone else, that he can at least keep Jake with him, or if they both stopped existing, then it doesn't matter, Solux points out. That doesn't make sense. I don't want you to die. That doesn't mean I'd be cool if we both died at the same time, you insist. I don't think you understand his mentality. You're a shit angel, Hal begins. Fuck you, but go on, you interrupt, and Solix barks out a startled laugh. The point is that Dirk was given a job to do. It was the only thing he had to do, his only purpose for existing, Hal continues. And now I'm sad again, June mumbles. Dirk did the thing, though. That's why I'm here. You know as well as I do that unlike humans who just squirt DNA at each other, we're made for a reason. Suddenly, no purpose. You can fuck around with hell for a while, change things, screw with humans in new and inventive ways, but eventually it's just wasting time. He's immortal, and you start going nuts after a while. I'm not saying that doesn't happen to gods like June, who came about from a concept, but those people have a purpose built into the thing they are. Angels aren't like that, and even though he's a god now, he wasn't made as one. He has no purpose. The prophecy was a thing on his to-do list, and eventually you just have to do it. If it just remakes the world new with him as the only god, then at least that'll be new and interesting for a while, and he can keep Jake. If the lights of reality go off and we all stop existing, then he takes out everyone else out of spite and doesn't have to bother with anything anymore, Hal says with a shrug. That's upsetting in so many ways, Kanaya says wide-eyed. I really tried to help him, but he wasn't interested, June mumbles. I doubt that it's your fault, June. I'm going to guess that splitting into two people didn't do his mind any good, Solix assures her. Dave seemed fine after making you, and remaking you, Kanaya points out. You say that, but he almost immediately started making jokes about being able to suck his own dick now that he's down 2 ribs, you say with a sigh. I retract my comment, Kanaya says flatly. Dick jokes aside, if we win this trial somehow, I should probably stay away from everyone, Hal says softly and glances over at where Dave is currently trying to wriggle out of Jade's hold. His hair is a total mess now. What makes you think almost completely replicating the aforementioned circumstances that Bro went through would work any better on you? Kanaya asks, and you nod in agreement. It seems like a bad idea. It's not, Hal tries to say, but is cut off as June reaches out and grabs the front of his shirt. June's eyes are glowing solid blue, her hair floats like she's underwater, and she's levitating half a foot off the ground. If you even try to ghost me after this, you're in big fucking trouble. If you go anywhere where even the slightest breeze can find you, I will find you. You think you're safe in space? Solar winds, bitch. I'm your friend and I'm not leaving you alone, June snaps angrily at him. This is getting a little too emotional for you, this is getting a little too emotional for you, as Hal doesn't seem to know what to say at June's assurances. Luckily for you, Solok snags the back of your shirt and pulls you away without even bothering to make an excuse. He pulls you over to a table where Jade has seemingly abandoned a defeated and frazzled-looking Dave. We came to rescue you, Solok tells him. My ass, you did, Dave groans. Sisters, I guess. Hey, aren't June and Jade related too, because of June's dad, you ask? That's stretching it. Also, you could argue that if Kankri was made in Signless's image, then aren't you related to Kanaya? It's about as close of a connection as that, Solix points out, as he absently fixes Dave's hair with his claw. It might be Jade trying to get her fist into my brain through my skull, but thinking about all that makes my head hurt, Dave mumbles. Same, Solix agrees as he works Dave's hair back into something close to its normal shape. What happens if we win this? I mean, I'd hope the end of the world is cancelled, but I'm not sure I feel okay with Bro just being let go back to hell. It's not like we can get a restraining order on him, you point out. I guess the house is kind of a restraining order, Solix muses. Oh yeah, us all crammed in that house, all being agoraphobic until we die of old age. That sounds great, you snap. We don't die of old age, Solix argues. I gave you half of my life. We're dying of something, you retort. Dave sighs and sits up, tucking one foot onto the table and wrapping his arm around his knees so he's hugging it to his chest. That's exactly why I wanted to take him out myself. We're not going to be safe with him still around, Dave says softly. If this is what we're supposed to be doing, then it has to help one way or another, right? Solix says uneasily. Maybe if he loses, they'll fix the moon and lock him back in it alone. With no more Cal, he won't be able to get out. Gods are pretty big on ironic punishments, right? That'd fit, you say hopefully. You're not a big fan of anyone being locked in anything for obvious reasons, but you think you can make an exception for Bro. Whichever way this goes, I'm sticking with you two. You know that, right? You say, making sure to look at both of them in turn so they really, really get the message here. Yeah, we have a terminal case of Karkat. We know, Solix says teasingly, but the smile on his face is still sweet. You see through him. Dave leans a little closer to you, biting his lip for a moment as he pulls you a little nearer by your shirt. You've been really great and all. Wait, shit, that sounds like I'm talking all that you've done down, and I'm not. I'm the most grateful person there is about all that you've done. You literally went to hell for us, and that's like top-tier boyfriend stuff, and like... Dave trails off and his expression goes a little slack. Did your brain turn off or something? You ask after a second or two of Dave staring silently into nothing. A valid question, Dave, Solix asks with some concern in his voice. Do you feel that everything feels all weird, Dave says softly. Solix's small eyes open up and narrow suspiciously as he closes his larger ones. His gaze sweeps around you, and you even have a look for all the good it'll do. I think it's time. I think time is wrong, Dave says in a hurry, shoving past you to get to his feet. Like there's a loop you're supposed to have closed and haven't? Solix asks with concern. No? Maybe? Dave frowns as he looks around. Reality tears behind him and all but scares the pants off of you. You yelp and scramble for your weapon as the Sphinx that's just appeared leans close to Dave. Hi, it purrs. Dave had already been alarmed by your reaction, but he still jumps when the Sphinx greets him. He doesn't rush for a weapon like you and Solux do, although Solux doesn't so much arm himself as he looks ready to throw down. Oh, it's you, Dave says uneasily. Who? You ask uneasily. Dave says, who, you ask uneasily, as the Sphinx smiles at him with all those teeth. You look like Dave, Solix says slowly and uncertainly. I was half Dave, the Sphinx says brightly. Was? Solix asks incredulously. The past tense there is kind of concerning. Well, yeah. Now I'm all me. You can call me Dave Petta, by the way. The Sphinx smiles widely. You blink, and its colors snap from green to orange. Or rather, the parts that had been green are now orange and vice versa. You didn't see the change, but it happened when you blinked. You blink again, and they change once more. When I used the sword, it splintered off a version of me from another timeline, I think. There was a demon, Nepeta, who'd been looking after me that Cal killed, and then something happened, and here you go, Dave says lamely, waving a hand at Dave Petta. There you are, Tizia says, walking around a corner with the hegemonic brute at her side. Excuse me. I'm telling you, they just slip off like that, he says, waving an angry hand in Dave Petta's direction. Thank you for bringing them. And as for you, I need to ask you questions, Tizia says, pointing a finger at Dave Petta. That's nice, but I need to talk to Roxy. I need to talk to Roxy first, Dave Petta says, stumbling slightly there. Hey, she can still be your mom too, you know. Trust me, spending most of your life in hell doesn't change her perspective of you. I'm sure she'll like you when she meets you, Dave says, because he actually is genuinely a good person, and you'll fight anyone who denies that. She's already met me, from her perspective at least. Let's just talk, Dave Petta says and walks towards Tizius. Wait, Roxy's already met Dave Petta? She never said anything, you say in surprise. She might not remember, or might have vowed not to say anything. I know she's been doing a lot better since the apocalypse started, but she's still pretty messed up. She genuinely might not remember meeting them, Solix reasons. Them? Dave says with a puzzled little frown. Them. Dave Petta, Solix says like it's obvious. Maybe he can tell because Dave Petta was a demon and was Dave, or maybe he has some sense for this that you don't. Still, Dave Petta is a them, and they are also a giant magical sphinx that apparently can travel time, and from Roxy's point of view, they've already met. The they-them thing seems a lot less important in the grand scheme of things when you include the rest of that. You watch Dave Petta leave until they disappear around a marble column doorway with Tizius. You, Dave and Solix, have nothing useful left to do, so you're just left to worry. More accurately, it seems like one of you takes a turn to worry as the other two do something that ends up distracting whoever is worrying, and then you all change roles. The three of you don't get to talk to Dave Petta again, or Roxy, or Rose. Before you know it, the trial recess is coming to a close, and you're waiting with the others as Tizius checks over sheets of paper and refills her mug. You see her hands shake just a little as she pours, but it's the only sign of nerves you get from her. When the Furies show up once more, you end up pulled into court with no more idea about what's going to happen next than the murmuring crowd watching you from every side. Athena's nails drum out a beat on the desk before her, far louder than should be possible to hear, but it ushers in a silence across the courtroom as swiftly as any gavel would. I hope that both sides have a little more clarity after the break so we can get this matter all tied up and soon. Are we all ready to begin again? Athena asks. Both sides answer with a respectful, yes, Your Honor, and then before Red Glare can draw breath, Tizius cuts in. Her slack responses and asking questions after Red Glare seems to have just been an act. She's capable of some speed, for sure. The prosecution calls Rose Lalonde to the stand, Tizius says instantly. Rose rises to her feet, regal and calm, and makes her way around to the witness stand. She steps into it, and your breath freezes in your lungs. Rose's skin glows from within, warm and rich, but still as dark and full of life as before. When Bro was washed out, bleached, and corpse-like, Rose just glows. Her eyes shine with light, and she seems perfectly and completely in focus. She sits, proper and well-mannered, in the seat that you got stuck floating above of. "Can you confirm for the court who you are?" Tizius asks smoothly. "My name is Rose Lalonde. I'm the daughter of Roxy Lalonde and the devil himself. I'm Dave's twin, and I have started to come into my own title as a god of knowledge, light, something like that. I understand that this is all very early days for me, so I'm still settling into who I am, I suppose. I have powerful seer abilities, my own angel now that I rescued from falling, certain light-based abilities. Is that a comprehensive enough answer?" Rose asks. "That's perfectly fine. Can you confirm that you mean that Carcat Vantus is your angel?" Tizius asks. "I can. He's my only one, so it's not exactly difficult to do, and I think that he's far better than heaven ever gave him credit for," Rose says, and casts a look up at Signless. "Heartwarming," Tizius says flatly, and picks up a sheet of paper. "I would like you to tell the court about this evidence that I'm handing you, which I also submitted in the recess," Tizius says, walking around the prosecution bench to lay out a sheet of paper on the edge of the witness stand. Rose reaches out and takes the sheet of paper and looks at it for a moment. "This is an ultrasound scan of my mother. To be clear to anyone who is unaware of what that is, it's technology humans have that enable us to look inside a person. In this case, to observe to some degree of clarity the inside of her womb. She was at this point 7 weeks along. At her first scan, if the writing on this is correct, I found these scans in my mother's safe at her home, just after this most recent Christmas," Rose answers. "I see. And this one," Tizius lays a second sheet of paper down and then another alongside it. "This is another scan, a later one. From the letter that goes with it, you can see that her doctor was rather surprised to find that she was pregnant with 2 children rather than the one they had believed prior to this. This is me right here," Rose says, and holds the scan up to tap at the vague shape on it. "Tell me, is it normal for a baby to be undiscovered until 14 weeks along?" Tizius asks. "As the letter from the doctor that accompanies this states, it is very rare for that to happen. But I don't believe that I was simply missed until this time," Rose answers. "Go on," Tizius presses her. "My mother undertook some psychic damage of some kind during her pregnancy with me and Dave. Before, she was the brightest witch of her generation, if not the ones before her, too. She was mentally aware, sharp, and cunning. She managed to secure your services after all. She is still these things, but the process of her pregnancy changed her somewhat, damaged her mind, and gave her odd quirks. Among other things, she compulsively divides things in 2 when under stress. I believe that she used the spell on the baby she was carrying and divided it without harming it or killing it as per the deal, and that resulted in me and Dave. I will say that my mother is doing well at the moment. I can only assume that the location is helping. It is also prudent of me to mention that I, as one half of the original baby, was born first," Rose says. Red Glare is halfway through objecting as Tizius says that she has no further questions and wanders back to her bench. Red Glare narrows her eyes at Rose and then at Tizius, clearly wrong-footed and suspicious. You can't blame her. There's loads more that Tizius could have asked and perhaps shouldn't have asked but didn't. She didn't mention a thing about the blanket, and you know Tizius knows about that. What's she playing at? "Red Glare, if you will," Athena prompts her. "Of course, Your Honor," Red Glare murmurs and focuses on Rose again. "Miss Lalonde, can you prove that Carcat Vantus is your angel?" Red Glare asks. "What the shit?" you say under your breath. "I said so under oath in your magical truth-compelling witness stand, didn't I? What more proof do you need? I haven't started handing out membership cards," Rose says tartly. "You said it, and you believe it. That doesn't make it so. It just proves that you truly believe that he is yours. I want objective proof, not subjective belief. You're claiming to be a god, a child of a god no less. Up until recently, your supposed father had no clue of your existence. For all we know, your mother has orchestrated this, so you believe a falsehood. An angel could be made to believe things, have his memory falsified and told to act as if he followed you. I want proof. Summon him," Red Glare insists. Rose folds her arms and glowers at Red Glare. I don't do that without his consent. He's my friend and my moirail before he is my angel. He's not some soulless tool of mine to throw around as I please. I will not summon him for your amusement, Rose says icily. That's absurd. Summon him, Red Glare instructs her. No, it wouldn't prove anything. If your theory is that he and I are both tricked into believing something false, then how would any of us know if he's actually being summoned, or if he's just teleporting because he thinks I'm summoning him? Rose argues. Rose, if it'll help, you try to stay, but Athena interrupts you. This is all very irritating. Just summon him and prove the point so we can move on. That's an order, or else be held in contempt, Athena says sternly. Rose grits her teeth, but looks over at you anyway. You nod. You don't want her held in contempt of court. Who knows how bad that might be. You don't know if you'll fit in there with her, but you'll go if you have to. Rose runs her tongue over her teeth for a moment, flashing a sneer at Red Glare under cover of the motion. She seems to steel herself, and at once you feel that pull, a command on your soul, somewhat apologetic, but a command nonetheless. In a flash, you go from where you were to where Rose is. You're right in the space that isn't big enough for both of you, but Rose holds her arms out, and you coalesce into a smaller version of your form. You spin in the air just above her lap, about the size of a globe, and you find about the size of a globe you'd find in a school geography class. You float there as she curls her arms around you protectively and stares Red Glare down. I don't see what that proved, Rose says sharply. Nothing can get in under its own power without court approval, but you can pull your own angel in. He is yours, Athena answers. Well, fantastic. That was a wonderful exercise in... Rose starts, her voice steely. You interrupt, speaking directly to her in a way that you couldn't have done deliberately. You just did it because you instinctively knew how to, and really needed to. You speak directly to Rose and Rose alone, like a whisper in her head. Shut up! I know it'll feel satisfying as shit to call them out, but you know it's not worth it. Rose relaxes minutely and doesn't finish her sentence. She's gotta be trying to throw you off your game, right? If she has to cheat, that means we're winning, right? Rose breathes out smoothly, not exactly relaxed, but rather more focused. Still, it's calmer than she had been, for sure. So, Karkat is mine, as I said. I assume this proves the point about me actually being a deity, and him actually being my angel. Did you have any point you were getting to? Rose asks primly, and you note the sharp and irritated flick to Red Glare's tail. Red Glare settles herself and nods. I did have a point. So, Rose, how come if you and Dave are both Bro's children and born at the same time, how is it that he wasn't aware of you? Red Glare asks. Your form spins a little faster in alarm, but Rose just runs a finger over the edge of one of your rings, making you close and open an eye at a time as her finger moves. I can't answer that question as it contains an incorrect statement. We were not born at the same time. I was born first, Rose says calmly. How come he didn't see you? Do you have proof that you were born first? Red Glare asks. I do. In the recess, Tizia submitted a blanket made by Kanaya. I don't know how much attention you paid to it, but I'll explain it to you now. It was made with a sample of my blood, something that's taken in prenatal testing, and my mother got her hands on. It was also made specifically to shield me from the awareness of anyone but my mother and her, and specifically targets my father. When I was born, I was wrapped in the blanket, and undetectable to him. That is why he didn't see me, Rose explains. I have the blanket here, along with the box that goes with it. Once the blanket is removed from the box and put on Rose, then, until it's put back in the box, everyone but Rose, Roxy, and Kanaya will forget she ever existed. If Bro never saw her, or knew she existed, then he'd continue to not know of her, even when Rose was safely home and the blanket box was put away. Roxy's own home was similarly shielded from infernal locations specifically, but also near impossible to be found by people who didn't already know where it was, Tizzy explains. She holds out the box for all of you to see and removes the blanket before placing it safely away. I would like to see this blanket. Weaving is something of a specialist subject of mine, Athena says. Yeah, no, you're not going to argue that one. Of course, Tisius nods and walks over to the judge's bench. Tisius has to float up in the air to get to them, but she hands the box over and waits patiently on the ground as both Athena and Aradia inspect the blanket and its box. This is a very well-made spell. It would do just as you say, Athena nods sagely. Kind of a risky thing to own, though. I'd destroy them both if I were you, Aradia adds as Athena hands the box back to Tisius. Yeah, what does happen if the box gets destroyed but you still touch the blanket? Rose hugs you a little tighter, so tight that your outer ring stops spinning for a moment. You guess that either Rose hadn't thought about that, or would really prefer not to. That doesn't tell us you were born first, Redglare points out after a moment of pause. If you consider it at all, it does. If Dave were born first, there would be no need to hide me. However, my mother would still be very clearly in labor with me, and labor is hardly subtle. So unless you're proposing that the devil is a complete idiot, it only makes sense for me to have been born and hidden with the blanket before Bro turned up and Dave was born. I am the older child, Rose says flatly. Redglare gives Rose a long and quiet look, and then asks her a question that you'd hope she wouldn't. Rose Lalonde, do you think that you are the Antichrist? Redglare asks. I would say that much like my father's title of the devil, it isn't that the Antichrist is a specific person that you simply are, but rather a job whose qualifications one has to meet. It is a role one fulfills by fitting the prophecy. To say one is just the Antichrist misses the point. Rose opines. Answer the question. Redglare presses her, and you feel the pressure of the spell on the witness stand press in against you both. I don't think I do, no. But I don't think Dave does either, Rose says, and you wince. Oh, you don't think so? I thought you were supposed to be a god of knowledge. Don't you know? Redglare asks, her smile sharp and a little too predatory for your liking. I was under the impression that this trial was happening to establish the truth of these matters. Also, two things. First, I am a new god, and it would be unwise of me to start making sweeping proclamations like that. Second of all, I'm hardly the only god of knowledge here, and if you really thought someone with my powers knew all the answers, then why aren't you getting them to the stand? Rose asks innocently. Ooh, imply that the matter of Dave's status as the Antichrist might be a little subjective, or imply that the knowledge of other gods don't know shit. That's a rock and a hard place, and you're glad you're not stuck between it. You jolt in Rose's arms as a bang rings out from across the court. Bro is on his feet, with the desk under his fist starting to splinter. This is bullshit. Just because some blanket could do that according to you doesn't mean it did. There's no proof that she's my kid. Just that she thinks she is my kid and has that thing doesn't mean that she is. For all I know, Roxy went off and fucked some other god. Bro snarls furiously. She didn't fuck you, Terezi points out from her side of the court. It doesn't matter if she is or ain't mine. She's a girl, so it's not her. Bro sneers at Rose. He says girl, like some people might say tapeworm or dog shit on the sole of my shoe. The disdain comes across pretty clearly. Rose seems fantastically unaffected by this, and so she should be. Derision from the devil himself is more of an endorsement than anything, surely. It doesn't matter what she believes. Get Roxy on the stand now, Bro orders Redglare, who is staring in wide-eyed horror at him and glancing fearfully at the judges who don't seem to appreciate this outburst one bit. Why, Father, you're getting very emotional about this, Rose says sweetly and runs a hand over your rings with the air of a Bond villain petting a cat as he taunts his victim. No further questions. I call Roxy Lalonde to the stand, Redglare says in a tight voice. Rose stands up with you in her arms and coolly walks out of the witness stand. She moves over to your side of the court and takes her seat, still holding you. He's like mini version, Dave whispers and wiggles his fingers near you like he wants to poke your rings, but isn't sure he's allowed. As Roxy goes to stand up and listens to a quiet word from Terezi and Tizius, Solux decides to move. He leans around Dave to look at you, and then there's a ripple of magic, and suddenly Dave's lap and shoulders are full of bicolored snake. Solux leans closer to you, his tongue flickering and his two sets of eyes open wide as he watches you. You bristle at the attention, spinning a little faster closer to your core. Dave sighs and wraps his arms around Solux's looping, serpentine body a few times and pulls him away from you. We're in court. Could you cool it? Dave whispers. If he gets an answer, it's not one you can hear. You pay attention to the courtroom as Roxy steps into the witness stand. Across the room, Bro is glaring daggers, and for someone whose case seems to be going quite well, Redglare looks uneasy. It is going well for her, right? She ruled out Hal, Jade, and even Rose as the Antichrist. This should be a slam dunk for her, and a crushing defeat for you. So why is she staring at Tizius like she's suddenly not sure what game these chess moves are being played in? Roxy, Redglare says slowly, as she shifts her focus from Tizius to Roxy. I'm Roxy Lalonde. Yeah, Roxy nods. Tell us about the birth of your children, Redglare orders her, not unkindly, but not exactly in the friendliest manner there is either. More or less like Rose said, I had Kanaya make me that blanket. I knew her from when I worked at the uni. She's got all kinds of magic that's been otherwise lost to time. She was able to make what I needed. I got that. Excuse me. Take a sip of water. More or less what Rose said. I had Kanaya make me that blanket. I knew her from when I worked at the uni. She's got all kinds of magic that's been otherwise lost to time. She was able to make what I needed. I got that. I had made a home that people couldn't find. When the time came, I had to go into town so the ambulance could pick me up. They'd never have found my home. I made it so Rose came out first. I wrapped her all safe, and all the docs forgot about her. I had to keep her out of the way so no one would knock her over or step on her by mistake. Then Dave came, and he showed up to get him, and brain-fucked all the docs in the process. Roxy answers. Why did you have 2 children and not 1? Redglare asks. I had to, Roxy says, and all your eyes widen at the sight of her. A glowing white line starts to form up Roxy's body, from the center of her forehead spreading out like cracks in an overdone glaze in a pottery studio. Why? Redglare asks. Roxy's hands twitch in aborted gestures, but all the same you see fractals of magic curling around her fingers, and the divide on her gets deeper and longer down her body. Tizius gets to her feet and looks at the judge. As Rose mentioned earlier, Roxy has the clear results of magical damage. It's not that she doesn't know the answer, or that she's lying. She just can't access the information for you. Please don't maim or physically damage my client any further. Try a different question. Tizius, please. Perhaps rephrasing might work, Arati suggests. Redglare looks at Roxy for a careful moment before speaking again. Did you do something to your original baby to make it so you had 2 instead? Redglare asks. Roxy nods and presses a trembling hand to her forehead as if trying to hold herself together. Is Dave Lalonde your son? Redglare asks. Yeah, he is. He's my baby, and I'm so sorry he had to go with him. Roxy hisses that last part with a glare at Bro. And Bro Strider, my client, the devil, is his father, Redglare asks, tying her argument up. Yeah, Roxy agrees. And did you have any sons with my client before Dave? Redglare asks, and Roxy shakes her head. Can you confirm that your daughter, Rose, is a girl and has always been a girl? Redglare questions her. Roxy's brows furrow for a moment, and then her expression goes cold. Pissed off, Rose, kind of cold. You've seen that face on Rose, and it doesn't end well for the people subjected to it. Changing my kid's gender for some prophecy isn't something I'd think to do. Making someone live as something they're not is harm, and that's... No, she's my daughter, never been anything else, Roxy snarls at her. So regardless of Rose existing, do you agree that your knowledge Dave is my client, or do you agree that to your knowledge Dave is my client's firstborn son, and that he took him and raised him in hell? Redglare asks. Yes, Roxy admits. No further questions, Redglare says with a suspicious look at a very calm Tizius. As Tizius starts to talk, you watch the other side of the court. Redglare's side are all murmuring quietly with looks of confusion and suspicion. They don't know what's going on. You narrow your eyes and try to lip read a little. One demon leans over to Redglare and whispers, Is she throwing the case, trying to help our side win in his favor? Redglare's eyes narrow on Tizius, and she shakes her head minutely. Tizius is good, Redglare says back too quietly for even you to catch, but you can see her say it. At least you're guessing at the shape of Tizius's name. It's not one you've heard a lot. You suppose that she doesn't think Tizius is throwing the case, which is good for you, nor that she's incompetent, which is also good for you. So then what hasn't she seen? Roxy, I hope you're feeling a little better. Are you? Tizius asks Roxy gently. Yeah, sorry, Roxy mumbles, her hands clenching and unclenching, with magical sparks flaring here and there. It's fine. I wanted to ask about Dave and Rose. You made them by splitting the child you were carrying before between these 2 scans, yes? Tizius asks, holding up the 2 scans from her earlier. I did, but it didn't hurt or cause harm. It was all above board, Roxy insists. I know, don't worry. Can you show us the spell you used? If one of the judges was to provide a test subject so we can see what you did and get the magic of it analyzed, would that be acceptable to everyone? Tisius asks, looking up at the judges. Arati and Athena talk quietly for a few moments before Athena stands and leans over her podium. With a wave of her hand, she conjures an owl from nowhere and a perch for it to sit on. Go ahead. We'll also be transcribing your magic here, Athena says and taps at a sheet of paper on her desk. Tisius sidesteps out of the way and gestures to the owl and gives Roxy a reassuring nod. Roxy seems to hesitate, but finally gets to her feet and faces the seemingly oblivious owl. Her fingers twitch a few times, but you watch as she lifts her hand and... Whatever Roxy does, she does it so fast that you don't catch it. There was one owl on the perch, and then there's two. The perch splits in half as well, and one owl squawks as it half falls. That owl taking flight topples the other half of the perch, and the second owl bursts into the air as well. Athena looks down at her paper and idly holds one arm out as the two owls fly over and land on it. She turns her attention to the owls with care, and then neatly flicks the paper down to Tisius. Neither owl is the one I gave you. They're both different. They are both made from that owl, though, and you split the perch in half, Athena notes. It's very impressive that you did that on a fetus inside you without destroying yourself in the process, Aradia beams. Yeah, well, Roxy's powerful as fuck. That spell did have some obvious after effects, though, didn't it? Thank you very much, Roxy. That'll be all. I'd like to call my next witness, Tisius says, and Redglare looks even more confused than before. I would like to call a sphinx that I had added to the witness list. They're going by Dave Petta. If you could... Tisius looks at Hegemonic Brute, who is standing at the edge of the courtroom. You get to see the moment that his face goes from mildly annoyed at having to work to an oh no kind of shock horror. But because you can see in all directions in this form, you can also see Dave Petta simply appears right next to him and then steps into the witness stand. They catch your many eyes and wink at you. The brute panics, but when he turns around to tell Athena and Aradia that he can't find Dave Petta, he sees them sitting there, all eye-searingly bright and smug in the witness stand. Thank you kindly, Tisius all but purrs, and turns her focus onto Dave Petta. Excuse me. My throat's being a bitch today. Dave Petta, I'd like to establish a little detail before we get to who exactly you are, Tisius says, and from the way Bro is slightly on fire, you think he recognizes them all too well. The order of things isn't a big deal for me, Dave Petta shrugs. We've mentioned before the sword, Calidfwilch, Tisius starts. Doesn't really roll off the tongue, does it? Dave Petta interjects, but Tisius ignores that comment, perhaps wisely given the Celtic gods nearby. If I could have it from evidence for a moment, I'd like you to tell us about it and what it does, Tisius says, motioning to the brute who is this time able to get what he was asked to get. Past Dave Petta's form, you see Redglare go very, very still. Behind her red glasses, her eyes go wide, and you can see the proverbial penny drop for her. She turns and whispers something to the demons behind her, who suddenly are all in a hurry to find paperwork for her. Tisius smiles as she takes the sword in one hand and sips from her mug in the other. You can see the expression curling around the edge of that mug, and it doesn't do a lot to hide how pleased she is. Tisius hands the sword to Dave Petta, who takes it easily enough. What'd you like to know? Dave Petta asks. Why don't you start at the beginning? Tisius suggests. I can't. This sword is... There are all sorts of legends about it from all sorts of times, and I've been around and will be around for all of them. But the simple fact is that it doesn't have a beginning. It's an axiomatic item. Maybe that's a good way to say it. It always has been, but sometimes it needs to be in the right state, in the right place. It exists in different times and hops through time in a way that the beginning doesn't mean anything. I can't tell you where I started with it, Dave Petta says, but I can tell you where I started with it, Dave Petta says. Please, Tisius nods, leaning against the bench. Across the court, demons hand papers to Redglare, who hurriedly reads them. This sword can kill gods, not unmake them, or curse them, or eat them, but completely kill. Destroys the soul and the life, all of it. But As with all cool things like that, there's a price. You kill a god, and you're changed too. Dirk Strider used to kill the devil, used it to kill the devil before him, and he became him. And him, Dave Petta says, looking one way at Bro with their face orange, and then at Hal with their face green. I see. So I have a piece of paper here, a transcription of the spell, or of a spell. Could you look at it and tell me if this spell does the same thing as the effect that you've just described? Tizzius asks and holds the paper that Athena wrote on up to Dave Petta. That spell that I know Roxy did is exactly what this sword does as an effect when you kill a god with it. This spell couldn't kill a god. It doesn't do that part, but it's absolutely how the side effect works, Dave Petta says quite firmly. You see Bro go to say something, and then Red Glare jerks slightly, and Bro flinches away from her, like she's stamped on his foot or something. Bro looks at Red Glare utterly stunned, and she shakes her head at him short and sharp. So you mean to say that this spell is the same effect that split Dirk into Bro and Hal, respectively? Tizzius asks. Objection, your honors. This is pure speculation, Red Glare says quickly, getting to her feet. You're right, Tizzius agrees before either judge can say anything. It is just speculation if they haven't seen it used. Dave Petta, have you seen this sword used? Have you seen this sword used in person? Do you have real first-hand experience with its effects? Dave Petta's expression is very, very cat that caught the canary as they smile and lean in a little closer to Tizzius. I am actually a creature made by this sword, Dave Petta purrs. Bro pulls Red Glare close and murmurs something. Her face turns rigid with anger, and she hisses something back at him. I can time travel. A version of me from my then future had given Dirk the sword, and it remained in his vault for many years. One day, Dave and Solux were set to go up to Earth, right before their supposed world ending. Solux got all sneaky and slipped into the vault and stole this sword. I don't know if he knew what it was, but he gave it to Dave from the future when he showed up. That Dave was one in the very recent past from a linear look back from here. He was around after the moon broke open again, and Bro dragged him back to hell. That sort of time, Dave Petta begins. Bro was clearly angry, demanding that Dave fight him, and Dave kept refusing. There was a fight. A demon called Nepeta was killed, and she'd really liked Dave, and Dave liked her too. Dave had this sword and turned it on Cal, Bro's puppet familiar. It split him open and freed Hal, but killed Cal as a thing. It split Dave. That led to a dead Dave, and that one, Dave Petta explains, pointing at Dave right next to you. The dead Dave merged with Nepeta and stopped being him and her and became me. I took the sword back in time and gave it back to Dirk. After that, I kept following the sword through time and guarded it and watched what it did wherever it went. I've seen what it does. I've been what it does, Dave Petta explains. What happened to the Dave who didn't die and become you? Tizzius asks. He was a lot weaker without being part of me, or part of me being... You understand. Bro attacked him and killed him, or near enough. His god powers were weakened, and so he was able to die. Only Solux coming back and reviving him helped, Dave Petta says with a shrug. No further questions, Tizzius says and nods at the opposing counsel. Red Glare pauses for a moment, her eyes on Tizzius and then Dave Petta. Dave Petta, Red Glare says slowly, you said that Dave died fighting Bro. We all know that gods can be very weakened in a fight, but you said that he died and was revived by Solux. Did you see that? No, Dave Petta says without any elaboration. So you've just been told that's what happened, Red Glare presses. Yes, Dave Petta agrees flatly. No further questions, Red Glare says tightly, not giving Tizzius any more information to work from at all. In fact, Red Glare goes on, I think we've covered all that needs covering. I would like to move on to closing statements, if it pleases your honors. Interesting, though that last witness was. I think we're about at the end. Actually, I have a final witness that I need to call, Tizzius interjects. Every witness that we've had has made it perfectly clear that Dave is the only person who can be the Antichrist. You're simply stalling for time and trying to make something out of nothing, Red Glare shoots back. I just want to call Solux, that's all, Tizzius says insistently. And Miss Entic, Athena sighs.
Well, hey, she's going to run out of people eventually, so why not hear from Solux? If that's her last witness, then why not? Aradia says, and her smile turns a little sly as she looks at Solux. Dave makes a slightly strangled sound, and you realize that Solux's sneaky form has tightened around Dave's throat as Aradia looks right at him. He uncoils hurriedly, and with about as much embarrassment on his face as you can imagine on a snake. Fine. Call your witness, Athena sighs. Solux captor, on 2 legs if you don't mind, Tizius says with a flash of a smile. Solux teleports to the middle of the courtroom and transforms at more or less the same time, so he appears with a vague impression of scales that linger a little longer than it should. Tizius gestures him into the witness stand, and he goes willingly. Solux, you are Dave's familiar, correct? Tizius asks. I am. He made me from his rib, his ability to fly, thoughts and feelings, focused wishes, power, a lot of things. Solux nods. You are a lot more whole than most familiars. What's your true name? Tizius asks him. When Solux speaks his name, it has that same double echo resonating in your head, quality that it had the first time. It still makes your heart ache to hear it, especially knowing what you know about him and Dave now. More accurately, it makes your heart hurt, knowing the kind of things that Bro did and has done even recently to Dave and Solux. Made in the bleakest darkness, by a soul bereft of hope or any real life, taken from blood and pain, but not to make more, but to be better, be something and someone to be loved and love. Be the eyes that watch and protect, the capacity to do harm when needed, but the soul to not want to. A spark of desperate hope powers this to be different from everything else everything else this came from. An ally against a universe that's determined to devour. An undying soul that never abandons or leaves. A blade that doesn't thirst to cut. A shield that gives and doesn't rebuff everything. The doom of doom itself. Solux intones. It's different hearing him give his own name rather than reading it from the outside. It gives you the feeling of being him rather than seeing him. Who he is no surprise to you, though. You know him, and you love and hate him for it. Dave looks like he wants to pull Solux from the stand to hug him. More interestingly, however, is the reactions of other gods. They weren't expecting Solux to have a name like that. You're a lot more than most familiars, Tizius points out. I am a person. I'm a friend and a moirail to Dave. I'm his first real ally, not some tool to be used, Solux says hotly. And how did you come to be? Tizius asks. You can see Solux's tails flick slightly as he thinks. He wasn't prepped for this interrogation, so he's clearly guessing at what would be best to say. Bro asked Dave to make me. Well, ordered him, actually. He insisted on the rib part for symmetry with Adam or whatever the fuck, Solux answers. Right, I see. Which rib were you made from? Tizius asks casually, and Solux's eyes widen a little. He stands up from his seat and pulls his shirt off. You quietly despair because he didn't need to go that far, but of course he would. Solux points to his original mark on his torso, but there is very obvious a second one now. The first time I was made, it was from the rib for this side. When Bro got back to Earth after the moon, he ripped it out of me and killed me. He destroyed the rib. Karkat brought me back to life, and I wasn't fully me without a rib. When we found Dave in hell, he was dead, and I had to go back into him to bring him back. I gave him back all the little parts of him that he gave me. When he made me again with this rib, and I got all my memories, parts, and powers back like I was never gone, Solux answers, confirming the very thing that Dave Petta hadn't been present to confirm for themselves. Karkat brought you back to life. How exactly did he do that? Tizius asks, and Solux glances your way, still shirtless. He's my kismesis. When Bro showed up, I got killed, and Karkat's body got destroyed, so he got sent back to heaven, kicked out, and then Rose got him. Apparently, he didn't like that I was dead and called in a favor with his boss's husband, who's a psychopomp. He went to Midnight City to find me, Solux says slowly. In the jury box, you can see that Anubis, Aphrodite, and Hades are all paying a lot of attention to this. Shit, is Tizius and Solux playing the jury here? Karkat tracked Aradia down. I couldn't go anywhere without Dave, so I was just there. He managed to steal our lifetimers, and he gave me half of his life, Solux says softly. Aphrodite looks like she might cry, and Hades looks pretty goddamn swayed by what Solux is making out to be some epic quest of yours. It's not like that. You're not some hero or anything. You just weren't willing to accept losing him and Dave, and frankly, the forces of life and death can suck it. He had Rose summon him back, and he used the summoning spell I'd given him before to bring me back in my body. I didn't have any magic or anything, or not until I got back to Dave. He even carried me through winter when it was too cold for me to survive on my own. Solix adds that last part that isn't in any way relevant. You're spinning a fair bit faster, and you can see Rose's amused expression pointing at you, but you're not going to acknowledge it. You're not. Fuck, the jury is looking at you now, too. Was there any chance Dave would have healed without you being given back to him? Tizius asks. No, I'm sure Aradia can confirm that, Solix insists. Everyone looks at Aradia, who looks a little put on the spot for a moment, but then nods in agreement with Solux. No further questions, Tizius says, and returns to her place. Red Glare stares at Solux, her fingers drumming on the desk as Solux puts his shirt back on and stares right back at her. He's got more eyes to stare with as well. Yeah, go on, you gave him legal training. See how that goes, Dave says under his breath. No questions, Your Honor, Red Glare says finally. Since you were so eager, I think it's time for closing statements. Red Glare, what does the defense have to say? Athena waves her hand to Red Glare as she speaks. Of course, Red Glare says with a nod and walks over to the jury box. Assembled members of the jury, the case here is plain. Dave Strider, or Dave Lalonde, whichever name he wants to go by, is the only possible Antichrist. He was born from the devil himself and Roxy Lalonde. The prosecution might try to tell you that the baby was split. The baby that was split was the Antichrist, and Dave can't count. But the baby was never born. It became Dave and Rose, and it is Dave who fits the criteria. Who he was part of before doesn't matter, Red Glare says, and you watch Tizius smile into her mug. Dave was raised in hell and sent to Earth, where he started to end the world. The fact that he tried to wriggle out of that by locking most of you in the moon doesn't change this. I have proved that Hal cannot be the Antichrist, nor Jade or Rose. He is simply trying to avert the prophecy, as is his mother is doing. It's all perfectly understandable, but it doesn't change the facts. Dave is the Antichrist. That's all there is to say on the matter. Red Glare nods and moves to her seat. Tizius sets her mug on the table with a clink that echoes through the tense room. She walks leisurely to the jury box and comes to a stop. My colleague is correct, Tizius says slowly, and a bolt of terror runs through you. Dave is the only person who could have met the criteria of the Antichrist, the only one who could have ended the world as per prophecy. Dave was born to Roxy, given to Bro. He was raised in hell by the devil himself. He went to Earth and, yes, tried to resist his destiny by trapping the gods away. Then he was brought to hell to presumably be punished and then returned to Earth to do his job. The Antichrist being his job. Not the person he is, but his job title, just as much as the devil is Bro's title, Tizius says emphatically, pointing at Bro as she speaks. But he got a hold of Caldefwilch, and he used it, and it split him. Dave, who was born to a human mother from the devil, Dave, who was taken and raised in hell and sent to Earth, is dead. He became part of Dave Petta, and that Dave sitting over there, that Dave wasn't raised in hell, or born of a human mother, or taken to hell. He wasn't sent to Earth, and he hasn't ended the world. He isn't Bro's firstborn son. The original Dave met all of the specifications for the job of the Antichrist, but then he died because he used Caldefwilch, and then Bro himself killed him, Tizius says emphatically. She backs up and points to Aradia. Death herself has confirmed that if Karkat had not brought Solux back to life, a job he did without any help from Bro, then he would have not been able to bring the body of a Dave back to life. It has been firmly established that using the sword splits a person into two entirely different people and destroys the original person. You've all seen it in action. That Dave there cannot be the Antichrist, Tizius goes on, her voice building to a fervor. Moreover, simply having the characteristics to qualify to be the Antichrist doesn't make you the Antichrist. The original Dave, pre-sword, never got to end the world before being killed, so he was never the Antichrist, which means that the defendant made a deal with my client that he could not uphold. Furthermore, if he hadn't pushed Dave into a fight, hadn't made him use Caldefwilch, and then killed him, then this wouldn't have happened. Not only did Bro not uphold his end of the deal, but he took my client's child under false pretenses and then murdered him. He's guilty. The world should never have started ending, and all of the chaos that has ensued from trying to force that Dave to take a role he didn't fit has caused countless divine deaths, Tizia says, almost breathless with how fast she's speaking now. My client was wronged and cheated. You have all been wronged, and Bro Strider, the devil himself, is the one responsible. I implore you to punish this man for all that he's done. Thank you. Tisius concludes and marches back to her stand. The courtroom is buzzing with gods talking to one another, and Athena has to bang her gavel several times to get quiet. That is quite a lot to think about, Athena says slowly. Court is adjourned as the jury makes their decision, Aradia says with a snap of her finger, and you're back in the recess area. Rose lets you go, and you shift your form back once. I'm not sure that's actually true, Hal says slowly. I said truth doesn't necessarily matter, Tisius points out. Am I a different person? Dave demands in a strangled voice. That's a difficult question, Rose says thoughtfully. If you still have all the same memories, then I would assume not, Kanaya adds. You're you. That's all that matters, Solix assures the quietly panicking Dave. This all hangs on Caldefulch, though. Why did you pay so much attention to Roxy using that spell if all that mattered was the sword? Also, just because the sword does that, it doesn't mean it always does it. And Dave didn't use it on a god. He used it on Cal, and Hal starts talking, but Tisius holds up a hand. Shut up. We just have to wait for the verdict, Tisius says firmly. It doesn't matter if it's true. It matters if the show was good enough, June whispers and wraps her arms around herself. The sharp line of Hal's angry shoulders soften a little, and he looks at June for a quiet moment. It's not like you did anything wrong, he reminds her. I think everyone me and Dave shoved in the moon would argue against that, June retorts, and Dave quietly says, Oh God, and goes a little paler. Not that you'd thought that was possible. You only did that because of his bullshit. Besides, they all hate him. It's not like either of you were on trial here. It's him and Roxy, Hal points out. None of that seems to really make June feel much better, and all of you are just sitting uneasy, silence as you wait. You pace anxiously around the endlessly looping space. You're not entirely sure of what the actual facts of the case are, whether Dave is or isn't the Antichrist, or whether he is or isn't who he was. You're also not keen to discuss for the fear that the space around you might well be listening. Terezi and Rose are doing their best to keep Roxy distracted, which is obviously important. The demons are all together talking, barring Solux, of course. Kanaya sat with Matuna just listening to what the demons are discussing. You keep walking. June and Jade are together, with June braiding Jade's hair, all the while Hal sort of lingers uneasily nearby at the car. You pass Dave and Solux for a third time before Solux tries to trip you. You're all ready to curse him out, just out of sheer built-up nerves, but Solux jerks his head in Dave's direction. Dave is perfectly still and completely tense all over. Hey, Dave, you say slowly. You doing okay there? Am I dead? Dave asks in a small voice. You exchange a look with Solux. Clearly this is serious. You mean because of the sword thing? You ask him. Yeah, and Bro killed me, and then I woke up as someone else that wasn't me or Solux, but kind of both and neither, and then became this. How many layers removed am I from the person I was when you met me? Am I me? Dave asks in a panicked voice. I think you are, you say simply. Thanks for the help, great insight, Solux mutters. Shut up, I mean it. I mean, look, your body is different from when you came into being, but so's mine. You saw my body get destroyed, and I can't say our memories are what make us who we are, because both you and I lost most of ours, or in your case, got a lot of fake ones. You go on. This is the opposite of helping, Solix hisses at you. You ignore him. But here's the thing. When I see you, I know you're you. I forgot you and found you again, and fell for you all over again, because you're still you. I feel the same things now, and Solux knows you more than anyone ever could, and he knows that you're you. I don't know about magic swords, Dave Pettas, and splitting selves, and I can't prove that or argue it in court, but I think you're you. I still care about you. You say that last part gently and reach out for his hand. Dave holds your hand and gives it a weak squeeze. He sat on one of the pillar-based desks, so he's a little lower down than you. So when he looks up at you from behind his shades, you can see that brilliant flash of red in his eyes. If we lose this and they make me end the world, you'll stop me, right? He asks softly and earnestly. I'm chronically incapable of not helping people. I was doing it last time, right? You ask and shoot Solux a look. We were trying to keep people as safe as we could, keep as many alive as possible when Dave and June went to go start their plan, so yeah, Solux nods. Also, I'm Rose's angel now, so I think meddling with things to do with you is something that I'm effectively contractually obligated to do. I mean, you know Rose, meddling is entirely part of my angelic code now, I'm sure. You say with a nod, and Solux breaks down laughing. I guess you have a point there. You know, Dave trails off, glancing the direction where his mother and sister sat in the distance. What? You prompt him. I was just thinking about Rose. This never would have worked without her. I mean, let's say that she never existed, right? You'd probably still have stuck down here trying to find me, but you'd probably have less luck without her. And you'd probably have been caught too. But even if you hadn't, then it would have been harder for us to meet again. Dave says slowly. You say that, but I thought Carcat without Rose introducing us. I'd still have found him at Salem, and I'm pretty sure you and June set us getting invited up in the first place. She was always cagey about it, but it seemed obvious to me, Solix points out. Right, okay, but none of the stuff in that belt would have been there without Rose existing. There'd be no belt. Carcat couldn't have brought you back, so you couldn't have brought me back to life. He wouldn't have had the tapes that made Tizia's help Mom if she sued him without us being alive, Dave says and then laughs. What? You ask, feeling lost. It's a loop. A time loop. None of this works right without Rose. Rose needs the same connections that I have, but she needs to be an outside actor or something. She needs to steer you to where you have to be and set things up so we all have the cards when we need them. The spell Mom used to make us Dave and Rose is the same fucking spell that the sword effect has. That's not a coincidence. Dave Petta taught it to her off of it. Dave Petta only exists because me and Rose aren't the same person, because I was me when I used the sword. It's a stable loop. Rose not being here makes this whole thing a paradox. Dave laughs weakly. Seems like it'd be a waste to go through all that Machiavellian planning only to blow it last minute, right? You point out. There's a distant tearing noise, and you look around to see the Fury standing by a rip in space. The judges will see you now for the final verdict, they announce as one. I guess we'll see, huh? Dave says and catches your hand. He has yours in one and Solux's hand in the other. Together you walk to the Furies, and the rest of your group collects there too. When you're all present and accounted for, you are all ushered into the courtroom once more. Bro and his legal team are standing behind the defense bench, so all you stand behind the prosecutions. Athena and Aradia walk to their high-up benches and look over the court and waiting audiences of the gods. The decision of the jury in regards to the verdict was a relatively short one. The decision of punishment, however, took far longer and required input from other gods beyond the jury, Athena says loudly, her voice echoing around the room. Queen Mab stands with a sheet of paper in her hands, and Athena and Aradia nod at her to go ahead. It is the decision of the jury that the case of Roxy Lalonde versus the devil in the matter of the deal that made to produce the Antichrist that we have had no choice but to decide. Queen Mab lingers for a moment, her eyes flickering to her granddaughter. It's a good thing that you don't need to breathe because you've been holding your breath this entire time. You grip on Dave's hand, and must be bruising. We have decided, unanimously, in favor of Roxy Lalonde. The deal that she made was upheld on her end, but not on the part of the devil. As such, he has broken their deal, and will be punished accordingly, Mab says and sits. You won? What? Bro shouts, slamming his hand into the desk at his side. It bursts into flames and splits in two under his fist. Aradia vaults her desk, flying across the room. A black cloak that's more shadow than it is a mere suggestion of fabric comes into appearance on her shoulders. She hits Bro and knocks him to the floor, and as she moves, her skin shifts translucent, and her bones become visible. The promise of death, which is something that comes for all of you, makes itself very plain on her. Do not interrupt our court. She doesn't say it loudly, but everyone hears it, clear as anything. Fittingly, the fire around her dies, and the defense's bench starts to age and chip apart just for being near her. Red Glare and the rest of the legal team back up quickly with their heads respectfully bowed to Death herself. Aradia turns her head to Athena, who is waiting patiently. You get the impression that Aradia gave her a polite smile, but it's hard to see how when you can see every tooth in her dead skull. Hot, Solix says under his breath. What the fuck? You hiss at him, but Solix just grins at you. As I was saying, the matter of punishment has to be decided. For the crime of breaking such a hefty deal, your title of the devil will be stripped from you, as well as all powers and privileges such a position affords you. You will be a god no longer. The matter as to who should take your place, it is standard that the person who defeated the previous devil takes the position. In this case, it is only fitting that Roxy Lalonde should hold the title and all that comes with it, Athena says, and you can see Roxy's jaw drop. But wait, I don't want that, Roxy protests, loud enough to make Athena pause. Well, what would you suggest instead? Tisius asks, quickly, with a rather urgent look in her eyes. I never wanted to control demons. That's all humans ever try to do. You're all capable people of making your own choices. Can't you decide for yourself what's supposed to happen with hell? Roxy says as she looks at the demons on your side. Are you saying that demons should democratically elect a devil in charge instead of getting whoever killed the last one? Solix asks in obvious horror. The other demons around all start reacting in clear disgust or horror at the idea of democracy in their plane. Absolutely not. Godhood is a sacred thing. You cannot simply vote on something like that. A god from somewhere in the stands objects. Gods and goddesses around the room are expressing their agreement with this statement. It seems highly against their collective beliefs about their places in the universe. For some reason, your eyes land on Signless and Queen Jade, who are grinning. Queen Jade gets to her feet and loudly shouts her opinion. Next, they'll say, anyone can be a god, she yells, and the other gods shout in agreement with that. What next, carpenters? Signless shouts and doubles up laughing. To your left, you hear Matuna wheeze with laughter for a moment before he reaches over and snaps his fingers near Tisius and Stelsa. Red Glare and the rest of her legal team even drift a little closer, both to be away from Radia and to hear what's going on. They're trying to tell us what to do. They think they're better than us, Matuna points out. They always think that, Tisius agrees with a mutter. But it's not like Bro killing Caliborn was any better for us, right? I mean, some things changed, but we're always going to be dealing with whoever kills the last one. If we have elections, then we control things, Latula points out. I mean, you'd all be better suited to determine what you need than me, Roxy agrees. Democracies are certainly no barrier to evil on Earth. If anything, proving that you can rig them efficiently would be proof of competency for the job, Red Glare agrees. It would make some sense to have checks and balances in place, have Roxy as a figurehead god, and then whoever wins the thing actually has the power. Like a democratic monarchy. Those are really messed up, Tisius nods. We would have to organize hell into voting districts. We need a whole level of bureaucracy for that to keep up with how the geography changes all the time. Think of how much a challenge it would make gerrymandering, Stelsa says with stars in her eyes. That's my girl, Tisius beams. Think of the sex scandals. I'm good at those, Latula gasps. I really don't want to think about that, Solix grumbles, and thankfully is far enough from Latula that he's not much in risk of her hugging him and cooing over him to embarrass him. I'll accept being a god and the powers that come with it if I can do what I want with them. I've decided, Roxy says loudly, turning back to Athena now that the demons have collectively decided to do the exact opposite of what the gods want them to do, purely because it's what the gods want. Good, Athena says suspiciously. Aradia steps back from Bro and reaches down with a half-skeletal, half-flesh hand to haul him to his feet. She floats in the air and pulls Bro up with her. When they're at the same height that Athena is stood at, Aradia stops. As punishment for your crimes, your godhood, powers, abilities, privileges, and titles will be stripped from you entirely and given to Roxy Lalonde, Athena intones. She slams her gavel down, and with a bright flash of light, Bro's whole form is taken over. Roxy flares bright like the sun, and even though watching it leaves your eyes stinging, you can see something tangible transferring from him to her. When the light finally recedes, you can see Bro hanging in Aradia's grip. He looks far more mortal, and his feathers are dirty and mangled, even as his formerly angelic wings droop towards the ground. He squirms in Aradia's grip, but she's not letting him go. Instead, she holds her other hand, and a lifetimer floats up from out of sight, and it is so very nearly empty. Aradia lets Bro go a millisecond before he starts to burn. He's falling, because of course he is. He would have been expelled long before Silenus even got into power. He's not just been an angel since then. Rose reaches for you so you can bury your face in her shoulder. You don't want to see him falling and burning. Hearing it is bad enough when it's already happened to you once. There's no one willing to catch him here, and even though you hate him, you feel like no one deserves this. When the screaming stops, you carefully lift your head and see Aradia standing on the floor over a charred mark, the now spent lifetimer in her other hand. She sweeps a dark shifting something from the floor and hands both that and the lifetimer to the hegemonic brute. He must be a psychopomp sometimes after all. In the wake of Bro's death, it seems that Athena doesn't have anything to call the room to silence or attention. Everyone's eyes are on this scene. That is not the only matter this court was concerned with, however. Dave was not the Antichrist, and so the world should clearly not end and should never have started to. The horsemen have all been officially called off, but we will have to unwind time back past the point at where this all started. Ordinarily, I would be inclined to suggest that this cost should be covered by the devil and hell, but that's not going to be appropriate here, Athena says, and glances at the charred outline on the floor. It would also be remiss of me to not point out that almost all of us were, as a result of this mess, forcibly imprisoned within the moon, and some of us died. Certain gods argued that this would not have happened if it was not for Bro's failure to uphold his deal. However, the culprits of this specific crime are still with us today, Athena says, her cold gaze shifting to Dave, Rose, and June. It is quite clear that the three of you cannot be trusted with your divine powers, and the world is in the mess it is in now precisely as a result of your actions. We recognize that you were put in a position where you had little choice, but every action has a price, Athena says firmly. What is she going to do? Should you do something? Can you do something? Given that she just ripped the divinity from Bro and gave it to Roxy, you doubt that you, a mere angel, can do anything at all. We need to put the world back to how it was as closely as we can, and you three need to be punished. We have a neatly dovetailing problem here. It will take a significant magical power, especially time-based power, to do this. Rose Lalonde, Dave Lalonde, and June will all have their godly powers taken from them. They will remain mortal humans for one human lifetime, and their powers for that time will be used to restore the world to as close as how it should be possible. I suggest that you use that time wisely to think about your actions. At the end of your lifetimes, you will get your powers back. You will regain your divinity. In that time, any prayers that would power you, anything that would feed your specific domain, will fix the mess you made, Athena says firmly and lifts up the hammer on her desk. Wait, but what about, Rose starts to say, pulling away from you to argue with Athena. Her hand slips from yours and your eyes widen as the hammer falls, and everything stops. Your phone next to you buzzes, old and cheap that it is. Blindly, in your half-sleeping state, you reach for it and knock it from your bedside table and onto the floor. The buzzing stops, so you just lay there on your back with your eyes shut and your arm dangling off of the bed. Your head is thick with sleep, and the way that you get when you're woken up in the deepest part of your sleep cycle, and you can't really think of anything much else. You might have been dreaming because it feels like something was just happening. You drift a little in a haze before your phone alarm buzzes again. You're just drifting back into sleep when it startles you and you nearly fall out of your bed trying to grab it. 8:40 a.m. Your original alarm was for 8:30. Why are you getting up again? You sit up and rub at your face, looking around your small and shitty apartment. Standard cookie-cutter bullshit that every brain-damaged magical fuck in the building gets. It'd be nice if it hadn't been constructed out of such cheap-ass material. You yawn, get up and go to the bathroom and pee. There's a vague feeling that you've forgotten something, yet you can't quite place anything yet. Once you've done everything you need to do in the bathroom, you're leaving with the heavy toothpaste tang of mint in your mouth, and you wander out into the rest of your apartment. You vaguely feel the urge to dig out your old DS and replay the Ace Attorney games. Those last-minute turnabouts in the cases were always something. Damn, there's still that lingering sense that you were meant to be doing something. You look around in the hopes of something to jog your memory when you spot a letter opened on the side, and it all comes rushing back. You were supposed to move to Salem today. Shit! You scramble to your wardrobe and fling it open. Thankfully, past you packed most of your stuff already, but you've got enough clothes to throw on today, and more to stuff haphazardly into your bag of holding. Fuck, there's so much you have to pack still, and you overslept! You sprint all around your small apartment in a mad panic, and when the knock comes on your door, you're not surprised. It's either your asshole neighbor or his bitch girlfriend who hates your every atom. You've probably been making a ruckus by running around so much, or else you've been swearing too loudly without realizing. Perfect, just what your day needs, someone to yell at you. With a reluctance, you open your door and you come face to face with yourself. No, not you. Cancry. Cancry! Now it all comes back. Going to Salem the first time. Dave, Rose, Solux, June, and Jade, your job, Kanaya, Cancry summoning you, and Solux explaining, watching him die, finding out what you were, Valentine's Day, the moon breaking, you rescued Solux, brought him back to life, went to hell, got Dave, and the trial. Now, what the fuck? You shout, and Cancry winces. We should probably talk, Cancry says with a sigh. Talk? You're fucking dead. Wait, am I dead? The sudden existential dread grips you, and Cancry ducks under your arm and into your apartment. Hey, you protest and turn back into your apartment. You shut the door after you, and with a thoughtful wave of your hand, you silence the place. The last thing you need is to explain to your neighbors why you have a slightly older and far shittier version of yourself in your place. I'm not dead anymore. Those of us who died between the event and the trial were brought back. Angels had a certain caveat with that, but I am alive again. I thought I should come see you, Cancry says vaguely. You look at him and watch as he looks around your place. A place that's a mess because you were packing to leave, and you can see the judgment in his eyes, and it makes you feel like you're an inch tall, and the feeling is very fucking familiar. Well, you've seen me. You can fuck off now, you tell him firmly. I came to apologize, Cancry says flatly. Really, you say. You are wildly unconvinced about that. As I'm sure you know, Silas is in charge now, which is quite the adjustment, though I'm sure you're pleased, Cancry says with a half shrug. I don't care. Not my circus anymore, not my stupid ass clowns to deal with. I'm on a better side, you hiss at him, and unfurl your stained-glass wings with a venomous pride. Oh, hey, you've always wondered what barely contained irritation looked like on your own face, and now you know. I am well aware of your choices. Regardless, Silas offered to help pay the difference of the magical cost to restore the world and the lives of lost angels by making us all live a mortal life for one lifetime, same as your God. He was also very explicit that we should use the time to understand humanity and make amends by doing so, Cancry says primly. Speaking of your God, you need to call Rose. You move past Cancry and pick your phone off your bed and realize that it's your old phone, and more than that, Rose's number isn't in it. Ugh, you know her pester chum handle, but you need her phone number to add her, and who remembers phone numbers these days? Not you. Excuse me. I'm here to talk to you. I understand that I wasn't perfect, and I'm here to apologize, Cancry explains, his voice taking on a very are-you-listening kind of tone. You say that, but you've not actually apologized for anything since you've been here. Not that I invited you in. I told you to fuck off, and you shoved your way in anyway. None of this seems different to before, except you're not shoving me in an entirely endless void because I apparently did something wrong. You growl at him. I never hurt you. I was just trying to, Cancry starts, but you cut him off. Don't try to justify that shit to me. I'm not interested in hearing it, you hiss. You could threaten to fly him into the stratosphere and let go just so he can experience terror at your hand, but that wouldn't make you feel any better, so you're not going to. You should just go to Salem. Rose will know that you're going to go there if you can't get her number, so that's where you should go. Solux will also know to find you there, and if you're still here with an angelic form, then he has to have some powers too, right? You get yours from Rose, and he gets his from Dave, so if you're at least this level of okay, then he ought to be as well. You just need to go somewhere he can find you. I'm sorry you feel that way. I really am, Cancry says quietly and calmly. You tip your head back and laugh bitterly. That's not an apology. You're not admitting that you were wrong for anything. You're saying that you're sorry, that I had the wrong reaction to something you still think is fine. You can't even apologize, right? Did Silas tell you to come here and apologize to me? Did he? You ask, getting in his space. No, He said that I was supposed to think about what I did and make amends, that I should be better. Cancry answers you tartly. Yeah, he didn't say for you to come to my place and demand that I forgive you without actually admitting that you did anything wrong, without admitting that the control you had over me was fucked up, that the way you treated me for being exactly what you made me was horrifying, or that the sensory deprivation was hideously immoral. You shout at him, anger coming to surface now that there's nothing he can do to stop you. Look, I am sorry that our relationship wasn't better. I wanted to be better. I felt like a failure too. Maybe it wasn't fair to make myself better by creating you, but my environment wasn't easy, and we're all supposed to deserve a second chance, Cancri insists. I'm going to leave the second chance thing aside on a theological level, because that's a whole can of worms that I don't want to open, because I have places to be today. But sure, you get a second chance. You blew it. So get out of my apartment and don't talk to me ever again, you snap. I didn't do anything. I just got here. No, see, this is your third chance. Your second chance happened when you woke up on Earth thinking that you were immortal, without all the structural pressures of heaven, without knowing what you were supposed to be. You didn't have any of that. You had a whole clean slate, Cancri, and you became a far-right human purist. You incited violence against people who weren't humans, because even when you don't remember anything, you're still an asshole. I don't want anything to do with you, you say, your voice low and quiet because he needs to hear this and not just dismiss you as yelling. You know what, Cancri? I hope that Silas being in charge is good for you, that he changes things up there and has the patience to make you a better person. I really do. But I don't have to do that. I don't have to sit around and let you hurt me. I don't have to break my neck to try to make you better. And even if you do become a good person, all that tells me is that you could have always been, and I just wasn't worth that for you. So, whether you become better or not, fuck off and leave me alone. If I ever see you again, just don't let me ever see you again. You mutter that last part. Your mind was going to that angel killing knife, but you don't want to say it. You are so tired of being around him. You grab your letter up from the side and check your passport and ID and leave. If Cancri tries to follow you, then you'll just fly away. And if he stays, you don't care, because you're not going back there. You're done with him. You leave your building and walk to the bus stop. You wait for a bus, a little numbly, and ride it to the port. There's still the adverts for the people who offer to bring you your memories back. You think you're good how you are, thanks. The Southwest Georgia Regional Port looks just like you remembered it, and you follow through the procedure of checking yourself in, and then following through the specialist security section because you're unknown species. Needless to say, you have to lie a lot on that form, but it's not like you're actually in any danger. You know, because you've done this before. As you're getting to the part about whether you've been cursed or not, you hesitate and pull your sleeve back a little. You look at your remaining questions you have with Solux. You could have summoned him here with that, but, well, you have something in mind now. You finish the form and wait when your name is called. You're surprised to see that you still have the same woman as last time. You're pretty sure you arrived at a slightly different time thanks to Cancri, but you still got her. She asks for you and your form and leads you into the teleportation room. You see the teleportation circle on the floor and vaguely wonder who's going to be the first mortal who finds out that the gods are working again. That'll be something newsworthy for sure. Okay, Mr. Vantis, my name is, she starts. Opal, you interrupt as it comes to you. It's so stupid. You saw her once months ago, but you remember her name. She looks back at you in shock. Are you psychic? She asks in surprise. A little, I guess. I just know things sometimes, you say, not entirely untrue. Oh, wow. About your magic, she starts to ask, but you're already holding out your invitation to Salem University. She reads over it in awe, both from what she probably assumes is your psychic abilities and at the prestige of Salem itself. You can't really correct her because the truth is just way more bizarre and perhaps more awe-inspiring to someone who doesn't know what Rose, Dave, and June are really like. When she hands you the letter back, she checks you for curses. Thankfully, Solux's deal doesn't count, and you decline the test for magical power. You'd feel really bad breaking her thing twice. The teleportation goes off without a hitch, and you all but run to the other side and to the desk to get your key and map you absolutely don't need. You straight up sprint to your dorm, not looking at anything or anyone else on the way there. You jam the key in the door and hurl yourself into the dorm room, only the person you run into isn't Rose at all. Roxy? You say in surprise, looking up at her. Hey, we did it! She squeals and picks you up in a hug. You're like 7 foot tall, you choke out as she squeezes you tight. Yeah, I'm getting the hang of this seeming human thing. Got the horns to go away. I think most of it will be better when they finally finish their election in hell and I can give this power away. But until then, I'm all devilly. You know what was such a bitch this morning? I woke up in the forest. I couldn't find my house. I hid it from myself. I had to go to June's. And get her to call the kiddos for me. Roxy laughs. Rose's door opens and you make contact with her and immediately try to squirm out of Roxy's hold like a cat who suddenly wants down. You get free and collide with Rose in a hug that makes you finally feel home. Oh, Carcat, are you okay? I was so worried that they'd take you away. We had Solux still, but he said he's pretty sure he's still limited, and I feel so weird, Rose says in a rush. She pushes back from you, and she's right. She looks a little more... It's hard to describe. It's not like when Rose was in full god mode and was perfect yet too sharp. She didn't always look that way. Yet now, when you look at her, she just looks like an ordinary girl. Still Rose, but maybe less bright, less true, less real. Something in that feel. But she's still Rose, even if she's all human right now, and you're so fucking happy to see her. Okay. I have a lot to tell you about what happened when I woke up, but I can do that later. Are you okay? You ask her. I'm good. I still have magic, but I have to really try with it now. It's really odd, Rose says with a frown. Now you gotta study, Roxy cackles from the other side of the room. I already did that. Dave will be in more trouble with that than me, Rose snorts. You look upwards hopefully. They're up there, go on. Rose laughs and shoves you towards the door. You're the best, you call after her and hurry out. You run up the right floor and see Dave standing in the open doorway, writing his name on the whiteboard on the door. Dave, you shout and throw yourself at him. You're pretty sure he accidentally draws on your hoodie as you grab him into a hug. Holy shit, Carcat, you're okay. We were so worried about you. Well, Rose was more worried. I figured if you could survive hell, then Georgia would be fine, right? Dave says with a smile. I'm not commenting on Georgia. I'm here now. I think that trial did awful things to my blood pressure. I'm so stressed out. You whine and lean your head on his shoulder. Insert blood pressure creating boners joke here, Dave says with a snicker and rubs your back. No, fuck you. Either come up with your own jokes or don't. I'm not letting you half-ass it like that. You snap at him and pull back just so you can glare at him. You don't really mean it. You love him, but you have to give him a little shit. You know, because you love him. So where's your pet snake then? You ask as you look around his dorm. Solux's stuff appears to be all dumped in one corner, and none of it is set up at all yet. You suppose they got here later this time, so things haven't been done this time around. I'm getting real mixed messages about whether you want me to make dick jokes or not, Dave says. Oh, right, you did mention snakes, which are vaguely phallic, and therefore Dave has to make an innuendo about them. You roll your eyes so hard you think that you might sprain them, just to really let Dave know how you feel on that matter. Soul isn't here, actually. He moved his stuff in and, well, kind of dumped it, and then ran off saying he had somewhere to be. I thought he might have gone looking for you, to bring you here, but I'm guessing no, since you didn't see him. Dave says slowly. You hope he's not run into Cancri or anything, but it seems weird that he'd go to Georgia at all looking for you when it'd make more sense to think that you'd retrace your steps last time, which... I've just realized I need to be somewhere, you say slowly. Yeah, it was just like that. Dave laughs. I bet. You agree. Hey, before you run off like he did, do I need to ask you out again? It could be cool. We could have, like, a normal, non-apocalyptic Valentine's Day. Actually, go on dates without dodging holy and unholy interference, Dave says hopefully. I'd really like that, you say softly. Sweet, Dave says with a smile, and that's just that. I'll see you around, you promise him. For a second you hesitate, and then kiss him in the doorway, just because you can, and then run off the staircase. Or at least you're going to the staircase when you're suddenly face to face with Bro. You shriek and backpedal, colliding with the wall behind you as multiple doors in the hall open. Oh, my ears are bleeding, he hisses and pulls a hand from one ear to show it smeared with red. The panic hammers in your chest but fades when you see a little clearer. Slightly smaller than Bro, narrower, younger. I hear Carcat, June's voice shouts up from the stairwell. What's going on? Dave asks, leaning out of his door. Dave looks at the door, to the stairwell, and then to you. He's Hal, not him. He's helping June move in, Dave explains. He must have seen him already. Oh, right, shit. I'm sorry, you apologize, reaching for him. I can't hear you, Hal shouts at you, though he sounds like he didn't mean to shout at all. You have the vague feeling that you can fix this. You're not entirely sure, but things seem to work best when you do them on instinct. You reach out for Hal, placing your hand on either side of his head, and will him better. You want to apologize for what you've done. You didn't mean to scream right in his face. You thought that he was Bro instead. Pulling your hand back, you watch as Hal works his jaw a little, like he's trying to make his ears pop or something. That's better. Still feels like it's ringing, he says with a wince. I'm so sorry, you apologize earnestly. It's fine. I get it. Hal shrugs, but he seems unhappy. Please watch the glass. You're a lot more delicate than before, Mr. Egbert warns as June hops over shattered glass from a window in the stairwell. June grins at you and bounds up the stairs, a big duffel bag under one arm and a load of blankets held in the other. I knew that it was you, June beams at you both. I told you people wouldn't be pleased to see me, Hal grumbles. It's fine, Carcat's easy to startle. But hey, look, we got Hal, June says, bouncing a little on her feet as she talks. Mr. Egbert comes up the stairs after June with a standing lamp in hand and several boxes, too. I should sweep that up in a moment. Hal, could you keep watch on the broken glass and make sure no one hurts themselves? Mr. Egbert asks. Sure, Hal says uneasily. Mr. Egbert nods at him, and then, with a smile, he slips past you and walks down to June and Jade's room. Silas let Hal stay with us, June explains and gives Hal the sweetest look ever. We're all supposed to be down here. I'm pretty sure he only agreed because your adoptive father has experience with difficult cases, Hal says flatly. He agreed because you were raised in a messed up way, and Dad is really good at being super normal, even if he does run my whole cult. Not that that'll do me any good for a while, but it's great. You'll learn all sorts of stuff, June assures him. Oh, are you studying here as well? You ask in surprise. No, despite being thousands of years old, Mr. Egbert has decided that I'm about 16 and I should be homeschooled for a while, Hal says, sounding entirely unconvinced about the whole thing. You know, Silas is here, right? He said he was going to miracle his and Kanaya's mom here. He also said he wanted to see how Hal was doing, June explains. I didn't know that. It makes sense, though. Where did you say he was, though? Because I have some things I need to punch him for. Several things, you say, and raise your fist up as if to demonstrate your willingness to throw down. Wow, how many gods are you going to fight in 1 week? Hal snorts in amusement. As many as I fucking have to, you tell him. A student comes down from a higher floor, pauses, clearly having heard your conversation. He's just looking at you both in alarm, with June acting like this is an entirely normal conversation. What? Hal says sharply. Nothing? The guy mumbles and shuffles past you. There's glass on the stairs. Be careful you don't slip on it and fall down the entire flight of stairs, breaking your fragile human meat body by snapping one of your many wet vertebrae, Hal says in a voice that is both intense and ominous. Oh, what? The guy says in horror, frozen halfway down the staircase. You heard me, Hal says flatly. Everything okay here? Mr. Egbert asks, and you all turn to look at him as he stands in the doorway with a dustpan and broom. Yeah, told him about the stairs, Hal nods. Excellent, thank you very much, Hal. Mr. Egbert smiles warmly at him. He heads down the stairs, unaware or not caring about how the other student is frozen in complete terror. Instead, he starts sweeping the stairwell free of glass. Dad doesn't remember anything. I told him about it all, caught him up, and he believes me, obviously, but yeah, as far as I can tell, the only people who made it to court remember. Jade was calling Joey and Jude to introduce herself all over again. I think she's going down there tomorrow to prove she's really family. She'll probably tell us all about it, June explains quietly. Shit, that probably applies to Dolorosa too then. But you suppose that, like Mr. Egbert, she's used to the weirdness of parenting a god and all the oddness that goes with it. Actually, shit, Mr. Egbert must not remember you at all. He was still so nice to you anyway, but you suppose that's just who he is. Hal shifts uncomfortably as the intruding student hurries past Mr. Egbert and down the stairs. Hal goes down a few steps himself and looks at Mr. Egbert uneasily. I might have deliberately unsettled him about the stairs and the glass, Hal admits. Mr. Egbert clicks the dustpan and broom together with a little plastic contraption that affixes them neatly together, and then looks up at Hal with a gentle smile. It means a lot to me that you tell me that. Thank you. I'm proud of you, Mr. Egbert says seriously. Hal looks like someone's just thrown a bucket of water on him, and even you feel something. That makes me even feel weird hearing that, you say with an awkward laugh. Yeah, right? I guess you'd get it, right? Heaven and having a job you're never good enough for, endless surveillance and persecution, Hal says weakly. Yeah, constant guilt about everything, and then paranoia about whether someone saw you do something, and then feeling guilty about that because you should behave right no matter what, if you're being watched or not, even though you probably always are. You laugh, but without any real humor in it. You two should get together for very dark and awkward coffee. Or maybe therapy, June points out. Mr. Egbert's mouth presses into a thin line, and he sets his dustpan and broom down, then heads up the stairs to you and Hal. He catches Hal in one arm, and then goes up a few steps to reach you and snags you into a hug that's at least 2/3 alarmed and awkward. Dad, no, you can't adopt this one too. Carcat is Rose's. He's already out, June groans and manages to free you from Mr. Egbert's supportive hold. I'm gonna, you whisper and point down the stairs. Yeah, go before you get adopted too, June hisses and gives you a gentle nudge. Mr. Egbert is very nice, if exceptionally terrifying in his own way. People shouldn't see incredibly powerful celestial beings and feel the need to go to a PTA meeting with them and give them hugs. It seems to work, but it really shouldn't. Still, you need to find Solux. You hurry down the rest of the stairs and out the dorm building. You run past the cafe that you go to oh so often with Dave, but that's not your destination. You sprint to the library as fast as your feet will carry you. You're about to go in when you spot very familiar figures outside the library. You sneak up on one in particular and punch him right in the arm. Ow! He yelps and pulls back from you, though no doubt it didn't hurt at all. All the same, Dolorosa looks ready to rip your arms off, and you'll thank Kanaya later for holding her back and quietly telling her who you are. That's for making me fall, you snap at him. I am sorry that it hurt, but I did need to do it. All the same, I forgive you anyway, Signless says, all wise and shit. You can't forgive me. I'm not sorry, you retort. Forgiving people who aren't sorry is sort of his whole thing, Matuna comments from where he'd been sitting on the ground. Huh, you thought he'd be an angel again. But you don't blame him for having feelings about heaven. You certainly do. You don't know if you'd agree to work for heaven again, even with Signless in charge. Also, Kenkri showed up at my apartment in Georgia, pulled a whole, I'm sorry you feel that way on me. Apparently, he's meant to be making amends. Care to explain? You ask Signless sharply. Signless goes through a whole face journey between surprised, irritated, frustrated, and then finally grudging acceptance. What I specifically said was that he needed to use his lifetime to understand why his past actions were wrong and to make amends for them by making the world better and being slightly more empathetic. Not to make amends specifically with you by giving you a non-apology. I'll talk to him. Signless sighs. Yeah, you might want to check if the others all have the same bright idea. If I keep seeing asshole angels that are about, I'm going to start, I don't know, setting your churches on fire or something, you warn him. I mean, don't do that. I'm sure there are people who love those places and it'd be terrible for them to catch fire, but yes, I'll talk to them. I'm not surprised. This is a huge job, but still I find myself surprised by how wildly misinterpreted I can be, despite the past 2,000 years. Signless adds that last part in a quiet mutter. You have fun with that. I've got to find a demon, you say, turning towards the library. Oh, wait, take this, Matuna says quickly and holds his hand out to you. Uncertain as to what you're inviting here, you hold your hand out and Matuna drops something round and plasticky into your palm. When he pulls you back, you see that it's a button. It depicts Matuna using Brose's body as a skateboard as he goes over a rail saying, Matuna for Prez on it. I'm sure I can't vote in your elections, but I'm holding on to this anyway. You laugh and pocket the button. Matuna gives you a thumbs up, so you head inside the library. The moment you're past the barriers, the excitement for why you're really here builds in you again, and you can't help but run to the stairwell. You know the floors by heart, so you run up them without having to check the signs at all. When you reach the right floor, your heart is hammering in your chest. You know exactly where you're going, right to the demonology section. It's empty, not a soul to be seen. Your breath is coming a little fast, so you take a second before you speak. This is a deal question. Solux, are you here? You ask quietly. Yes, Solux's quiet voice says behind your ear. You spin around and see Solux smiling at you like he's caught you exactly in his trap. All like he planned. You reach up and grab him by the shoulders and pull him in to kiss him intently. Solux certainly has no complaints about this, and kisses you back just as urgently. You're not going anywhere now. Hell and Bro are dealt with. Rose, Dave, and June are all going to live human lives. Jade has a proper family now, and Jake has got what was coming to him. You're all okay. You pull back from kissing him and watch him closely for a moment. Solux, this is a deal question. Did you miss me? You ask him softly. Yes, always, Solux says simply and honestly. Yes! Yes! My boys! That's what it is! That's the ending! Oh my goodness. Chapter end. Wow. Thick end. Oh my god. Oh my god. My favorite ending of all of Unda's Fix. Oh my god. Wrapping it up with the deal questions at the very end. Having that be the final tie-in. That's what started like their relationship at the very beginning.
and that being like the last thing of like fulfilling the last two deal questions that he had. Oh my god, this is a deal question. Did you miss me? Did you miss me? Oh my god. I feel so fulfilled and empty. Yep, simultaneously. Both. I need to read it all over again. Oh my goodness. What a fucking beautiful fic. I also just love the court case. I love the stuff after. I love the stuff with Cancri that we get some closure with that. Oh my god. Fucking so good. So good. So good. AU is a power fantasy for abuse victims, absolutely. It's so good. And now. Oh my god, wait, why is my screen not working? Hold on, fuck! Here we go. Here we fucking go. My favorite animatic. Oh my god, press the play button. I love it so much. Oh my god, what a beautiful way to wrap it up. Oh my goodness, I'll leave the link for in case people want the link. Such a good wrap up. I'm grinning so hard. This animatic's so good, it makes a lot more sense than the first time we watched it. We did watch it like before we read AU, and then we watched it now, and it's like, wait, there's so much context. We get it now. Oh my goodness. I had my mic muted so I could scream the lyrics out loud as well. But wow, look at that. God damn. What a beautiful fucking fic. A whole journey, really. It is like, it's so crazy. And we were talking about this earlier, today, really, how hard it is to write something that's like this long. Not only that's this long, but like has such a very, very solid overarching chapter. In my personal opinion, I think Alternate Universe is the best paced and the best overall, like, narrative wise of Unda's fics. I like the ending is like fucking perfect. I think Alternate Universe is the most polished, in my personal opinion, right? Everybody has a little different opinions. Most polished of Unda's works, most complete. It feels so good. And yes, we will read 22 seconds. Not soon. We will probably at least wait maybe a few weeks. But I do want to read 22 Seconds. My only thing with 22 Seconds right now is that it is not complete. 22 Seconds is not complete. It is already at almost 100k words. And I know it's past 100k words because the document is more updated than this. There's like a fucking 70 pages on the unpublished document that isn't on there yet. 22 Seconds, I can't say anything about the pacing because it's not done yet. Like, it's a little meandering, and also it's like, but it's also like a lore Bible. So yeah, I think so. With the stuff I have read of 22 Seconds Later, I'd agree. But I'm debating about whether we're gonna wait till it's done. Like, I kind of just, part of me wants to ask Unda, like, how long do you think this is gonna go? But I think I did ask them at some point, or at least I kind of, asked a little bit. They essentially said they're not really sure. So I can't really make an assessment. And I don't really want to read it unless it's all done. So I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see when we'll see. But yeah. But we will definitely read. There are a few little side fics. Let me see if I can find those that are quite short. But they are as little Google Docs rather than. Yeah, we have the quote weirdly intense soul thing. Oh god, flashbang. Random AU thing. Dumb ways to die. And then Mindfang versus. Yes, okay. These are the. So this is from like one of the chapters, and it's a Solux perspective. This is like a bunch of years in the future, I think. This is pre-event, and this is a an AU thing. So yeah, we'll read all of these, and all of these are pretty small. So this is only 800 words, 2k words-ish. Yeah, so total less than what a regular chapter would be. So maybe we'll read that tomorrow. Maybe we'll still come on 9 p.m. EST, and I'll just read those real quick. We'll do like a quick stream. The longest is AU but later because that's a proper short epilogue. Yeah, AU but later is essentially a short little epilogue. So we'll do that tomorrow. That's what we'll do. We'll do a short stream tomorrow where I'll read all 4 of those little documents, which are all kind of their own little supplemental things. So feel free because tomorrow is Thursday, right? Like it's not a Friday. Yeah, tomorrow's Thursday, so we'll still do that. And yeah, so we'll read those. It probably won't be as long of a stream as it usually is, but that'll kind of be our little complete wrap up of Alternate Universe for now until I figure out what to do with 22 Seconds Later. Maybe, if anything, maybe tomorrow we'll also read the first chapter of 22 Seconds Later. It kind of depends. How long is it? Yeah, only 10k words. So, well, I don't know if I want to commit and then like go away and not do anything for 2 weeks and then, or like a month, and then, come back and we don't have the context, or we're kind of, we don't remember everything. So we'll figure it out. We'll play it by ear. But I do want to read Fall of Rome at some point, which is a different fic, which is not as long. Alternate Universe by far, it's only like 140k words, which we already kind of discussed this like 2 streams ago. But I will keep you guys updated. Keep an eye on everything. If I end up doing a different unda fic, or like when we figure out what 22 seconds earlier is going to be, or 20 seconds later, I keep mixing them two up, I will post in the AU book club chat in the Undercord. And I'm not going to self-advertise or self-promo in Undercord about different fics that aren't unda fics, but if you do want to know when those will happen, I'll at least post that I'm reading the first chapter on like Twitter, on my alt on Twitter, which is at @VermilionLepis. You can find it linked in my bio through my actual Twitter. which is at Chris Rin with 2 eyes for the Rin. So yeah, so I'll post there if when we're continuing that, or you just keep notice on for the Twitch streams. I can't confirm it'll be at the exact same time if I do a future stream like this, just because I might move the schedule earlier or later or whatever. No meme about this. This was a lot of work. I joke about 22 seconds, but like, take care of yourself. Yeah, this was definitely a commitment, and honestly, did not expect it would be this much of a commitment when I started. Like, that's obvious. Like, of course, it's going to be that much of a commitment. But 2 months goes by when you're streaming this pretty much every weekday night. And it's kind of dawns on you of like, wow, I have to get through this whole thing. So yeah. But I definitely want to do at least smaller stuff in the future. So keep an eye out. But outside of that, people don't realize how exhausting podfics are. It really is. Just reading out loud in general. I guess I've gotten good at it though, because I can do it for like 3 hours straight. At least one stream, I think I did 3 hours straight without stopping. So I've gotten good at it. I think I've gotten better. I think I'm more confident in it now. I still stumble over my words, but that's kind of inevitable when you're doing live readings. But I think compared to like the first or second stream, I think even just me reading, I've improved a little bit at doing stuff, which is quite fun. It's a skill that you improve on. So anyways, that will be the stream for tonight, unless anybody has anything else they want to bring up or discuss. I think overall, I'll wrap up with kind of some final thoughts. I love alternate universe. I kind of said this already before, but I think that the pacing is some of the most solid. I think it feels the most fleshed out, and it's like very interesting upon reread. Can I finally be led into the main AU chat? You can. And now especially you can, because all the discussion of 22 seconds earlier has moved to a different channel. So before it was just all 22 seconds earlier talk. But now you can be in there. But I think that the mystery, because it's planned out from the very, very start, Alternate Universe is the most interesting of Unda's fics to reread, because you have all of that knowledge, and you can see all of the groundwork that Unda lays down really early when you're not supposed to know. I think that and Alternate Universe and Your Words Destroy My Planet both do a really good job of that. It's also very circular. Yeah, I do agree. You can kind of read the ending as like, obviously, you know, things are going to be better now, but it's kind of it is a time loop in a way, right? Like you start and end in the AU. Yep. That's really what it is. And it's very cool. I love how cool of like how kind of an inside joke the title of the fic is. Like, it is an alternate universe in the most literal way. And I think we talked about that a few streams ago, but it's cool. It is so amusing that this phrase that is used in, you know, fandom culture or whatever as like an actual trope is also like exactly what this is in the most literal way. And that's like really fun and kind of funky. So yeah, very, very cool. Just overall such a nice fic. The pale rose cat is, I think, crazy underappreciated and fucking awesome. You don't get to see Rose paired with a lot of guys just because her being a lesbian is pretty firm in canon, which I'm totally cool with. And I can't see her with anybody but Kanaya. I would feel weird shipping Rose with a guy in like a concubine relationship, so like in red or in red or pitch. But I think Pale Rose Cat is just so good. I just really, really love Pale Rose Cat. And this fic won that over for me. I love Pitch Soul Cat. Fuck. I love Pitch relationships so much, and I think Pitch Soul Cat is so good. The way that it's written in Alternate Universe is so great. And I think it's so interesting to compare like Alternate Universe's Soul Cat and because Unda writes Pitch in a different way across different fics, and it's so interesting to see how Pitch is written in Alternate Universe versus how it is in DBDC versus how it is in YWDMP. It's like super fascinating because all of them have a little bit of a different dynamic, and Alternate Universe is one of my favorites in that way. I think it's very like interesting to watch Karkat, like how he subconsciously knows all this stuff and knows how pitch works, but having to like come to a realization of that, and kind of almost that struggle of like how, you know, he's an angel and he has, you know, certain values and things that have been nailed into him culturally his whole life, and how he has to like grow out of that. And even how pitch across Karkats and AU, because pre-event and post-event and Karkat all do it a little bit differently. Yep, absolutely. Eating this fix like spaghetti and tomato sauce, 2 hands everywhere. Yeah. So just really great. I also like hot take. So, okay, a little bit of a hot take here, because I was thinking about this. And maybe I need to think about it more. Pre-event Dave is kind of an asshole. Just a little bit. Because obviously the event was kind of a last minute plan, but consider Solux in this position where, like, pre-event Dave, we can't know for sure how he went. To be fair, raised by Rose, yes, and that's like the one thing that it's like, okay, well, you know, what can you do? But Dave made Solux to be his like closest, you know, companion, et cetera, best friend, and then when initiating the event, either purposefully or out of kind of stupidity, had allowed it so Solux kept all of his memories and then still erased his own, so Dave and Solux couldn't talk. Like, you know what I mean? Does like thinking about that, right? And June's at fault too, and Solux is pissed at June, but Solux like lost everything, right? Yeah, lost his Moira, lost his Kismesis, and that fault is kind of on pre-event Dave and June. The in theory, what you would do is you would make Solux also forget, and now he was a demon, so you know rules are maybe different. But Karkat was an angel, right? And like Kankri forgot, you know, Karkat forgot. So in theory, they could have made Solux forget or included Solux in on the plan so they knew what was going on. But Dave didn't do that. Or pre-event Dave didn't do that. So yeah, like Solux had so much to take up on. So arguably, pre-event Dave abandoned his Moirail and like closest companion, and then essentially forced Solux to then live and grow up with a version of Dave who does not remember him fully, like, or does not like remember all of that, like a copy of him. It's like it's kind of fucked up if you think about that, right? Like if you think about it for a few too many minutes, it makes pre-event Dave kind of out to be a bit of either a deliberate asshole, which I don't think he is, or just somebody who didn't have a lot of forethought, like at all, and because of that really hurt someone. I think it's so interesting. There's one of the side fics where we get to see Solux's POV for a very small little portion. Solux POV I think is so fascinating for alternate universe, everything pre like Karkat angel reveal, all that sort of stuff, because Solux is like in the most difficult situation, like fucking God. It is so rough for him, and he gets so much shit from everybody sometimes, and honestly he's kind of an asshole, but I think he's allowed to be, considering what he has to deal with and what he's going through. And it is wild how stable Solux is throughout alternate universe. Like, he is the most competent character, I think, of the, like, outside of maybe Rose is maybe more competent than or like capable than Solux, but Solux is like incredibly so.
And the fact that like Solix, I don't know, if like Solix also has to deal with like being around Dave, and it's like feeling betrayed that Dave would do this to him, but also like a part of him is like, you know, very in love with Dave and, you know, created him. Like, it's so difficult. It fucking kills me that the thing in chapter 3 was a fucking love confession. Like, it was a big romantic gesture and he made Karkat cry. Yeah. I think about the Ouija board scene constantly. At least I'm thinking that you're referring to that, Skitty, right? That's in chapter 3. Yep. Yeah. 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 Yeah, Jesus fuck, Solix held it pretty well together this whole time considering. Yeah. I think it's just like it's something interesting to think about that I hadn't really started thinking about until a little while ago. And I was like, God damn. Because the more you think about pre-event Dave's actions, the more you're like, ooh, yikes, dude. Yikes. And like June is at fault too a little bit. I mean, actually June is also very at fault. But June didn't have a familiar. So like June kind of like still an asshole for doing what she did and like helping Dave do it. And obviously, yes, we're like this was the only situation that they thought of, and also these kids are like young, quote unquote, maturity wise. June's a god, but yeah, June made Karkat forget, left him in Georgia, and then also killed him. So like, yeah, so like June is also like arguably morally needs. They all need therapy, is what we're saying. All of them need therapy. But I think like that doesn't like obviously that doesn't ruin the story. It doesn't ruin June and Dave's characters. Dave is also like an entirely different person than he is pre-event. June, you could argue differently. But June obviously like regrets what she did by the end. Unlike a different, unlike someone else in Karkat's life who had power over him. Cancri. It's so funny reading YWD and P Cancri and reading AU Cancri back to back because it's like two different people. I remember one time where Dave was talking about a sleepover with him and June, and Karkat was like, "Where was Rose?" And Dave was like, yup, absolutely." Big sign of the event and badly filling in, and all the times I was like, "Is this a trans thing?" And Dave didn't want to out June. Yep. It was a because in Dave's memories, Rose wasn't there. AU Roxy and YWD and P Cancri on the way to kill their alternate counterparts. Wait, you're so right. I had to think about that for a second in my head. Technically, AU Roxy's equivalent in YWDMP would be YWDMP Roxy, not Roxanne. But I do get what you mean by that, Dr. Lalonde. Though, Ken, is it? No, because it's still the mom. It's still mom. There is no Roxy, like Alpha Kid Roxy. It's just the parents. Yeah, you're correct, Skitty. I had to think about it for a second, but yes, you are correct. It's still, it works out. But like, it is so much more than the gay. Yeah. I love all the little hints in AU. It's so good. It really is. You understood my joke? I did. It took me I understood it, but then I was thinking technically, and then I was like, no, you're technically still correct. But yeah.
So I think that'll be it for me tonight, y'all. We wrapped up pretty good. Me still thinking about chapter 8 when Karkat compares the Demon Club thing to a church. I also loved, like, and this, we won't get too deep into this, because I do want to go to bed soon. I love how much this fic kind of does a little bit of slander on typical, like, Christian stereotypes slash kind of things that are in reality, or at least like pointing them out, and kind of the way that like Signless is like supposed to be Jesus and is also like counter to how heaven works things, and just a lot of the like, as somebody who has some religious quote unquote trauma from some of the shit that I went through growing up Christian. Some moments in this fic are very cathartic for me. Speaking of like little hints, Karkat getting stabbed through the chest like multiple times before the fight at the carnival. Yeah. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of little hints. It's so, like I said, this is one of the best fics to reread because you pick up on so many little things that just like make sense. I also love what they set up with Dave Petta. I really like the conclusion that they came to with the court case. Like, I love how they win it. I think that the whole slam down that they do, let me see if I can find it. Like, this entire closing statement is perfect. I think this is so good, and like a very satisfying way to end things. It makes logical sense, right? And it's also like, in theory, maybe you could argue semantics, and whether this is actually true, but it works for what is needed to in the case, and it works as a convincing argument. And it's like a technicality kind of thing, and that's how demons work. And we've known that since the beginning, right? How particular deals and prophecies and stuff are. We set up the stuff with the prophecy being so specific at the very, very start. Also, the idea that Bro's downfall was the fact that Bro killed Dave in that fight that he forced him to do is also like very, very like, I don't know what the best turn of phrase, but like almost very like Icarus, like you push too hard, or ironic. I think that's ironic. You reap what you sow, fucking, because it also like places the guilt on Dave, or on Bro, right? Because if Dave had died by just using the sword on something, right, to kind of get out of it, but it was Bro's fault that this happened. So yeah, because that's how he did violate the prophecy. Absolutely right. It is specifically Bro's fault that happened. It's ironic because it's the Striders. Yup. So just a very, very solid conclusion. Dave Petta was set up pretty early on, or at least as early as Dave started time traveling. But even like how Roxy's spell works to split them up, everything was planned ahead of time, or at least it feels like it was, and that's like very, very cool. It was never arguing that Dave wasn't the Antichrist. It was always about Bro violating the prophecy. Yup. That's exactly what it was. Absolutely. So, and I also really like Tizzy as a character. So I was so happy to see her get this moment. And Tizias is set up pretty early on too. We see Tizias in the club with Red Glare. So even her as a character, obviously we see her with when she's properly introduced, she's with Roxy. But she's said by name in the club, like from like chapter 4 or something like that, like way early on. Maybe not chapter 4, but it's early. So just overall very planned out, very well written. Solid fic. Solid fic. Okay. I'm actually going to wrap up now. The past 3 times I've said it, I get sidetracked. But that is all for tonight's stream, guys. It was lovely chatting with y'all. Thank you all for people who joined the ride. What a full ride. What a lovely ride. I will catch you guys next stream, whenever it is. Probably tomorrow. We'll do some supplemental stuff. And yeah.
what a lovely time. Thank you guys all very, very much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely lovely night, and see you guys in theory tomorrow. Good night, bye-bye, bye-bye.